bought it. It was a brand new bike.
Yeah.
And so I bought it with the 131 as a brand new bike. It wasn't like something that they did after I bought the bike. You know what I mean? So like they built the bike, put it on the floor, and I bought it. Bought an ESP with it. So the pistons, there's something wrong with the scoring in the pistons and the cylinders and all that. So they're replacing all that. And so they called me. I was in Honduras, and he was saying, man, your Screaming Eagle pistons are not covered by the ESP. I said, that doesn't even make sense to me. Because when I bought the bike, they had said, there's nothing on this, since the way that it was sold, it was sold as 131.
Yeah.
We put all the shit on after, that there's nothing on here that the ESP wouldn't cover. And they said, well, yeah, that's normally true. And you know what? I've never seen this before. But there's a Screaming Eagle coverage also. And I said, well, what the fuck does that mean? What is that?
Well, I would argue to know whether that was available at the time of purchase, because they might have added the Screaming Eagle coverage.
It was available, but it was not offered to me. Which we're gonna have a conversation about that. But and you come to find out, they can do it retroactively for the term of my ESP, which is only another year. Okay. And I would gladly do it because it's only $200. Oh. Yeah. And I'm like,
that's most of your bike.
Everything on that son bitch is Screaming Eagle. I'm like, why would And then so Danny, he was telling me over Republic, he's like, dude, I don't even tell people about it. He goes, I just put it in their policy.
Yeah.
It's so cheap. You're buying a $50,000 bike and you're not going to fucking put $250 worth of Screaming Eagle coverage.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
It's fucking stupid.
Well, I remember when they were doing the 120 or the 131s out of the gate, they were trying to, that was like a leverage thing, especially in 2020, 2021, more 2021 because they were more widely available then. Yeah, they were, Houston was doing a bunch of those and like different dealerships down there. And yeah, it's weird. I don't know why they would.
Well, and the main reason that you got it, right, was because they were supposed to be a production motor after a long while, but then they switched it up.
Yeah, that was the rumor.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That didn't turn out to be so true after all.
Yeah, so it was like, for the entirety that you owned it, it's always been hard to get parts for it.
Even now, it's like they never carry anything that goes wrong with that son of a bitch in any of the Harleys that I break down at or that I need. You know what I mean? I'm like,
I've been in
plastic. Colorado. I've been in Arizona. I hate to fly. My last job, which was back in
07?
Or before that, it was a long time ago. I had I quit that job because I was flying so much. One of the reasons why is because I was flying out to Orlando like twice a month, and every flight just got worse and worse. I hate flying, right? And then so I've got more miles now since I started buying Harleys.
Yeah.
I'm like,
so you just ride to the job stuff now or what?
No, now I have my own business and I don't have to leave home unless I'm riding.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. But like now it's like I ride, like I'll ride somewhere, like especially on that 2020. It's like it's a fucking roll of dice if you're gonna get back, man.
Yeah. Man, I never had any issues. I had 2 different 131 crate motors and bikes. Of course, I'm not traveling the country the way you guys do. Like, I never had any issues. I did have a compression release pop out on me once, and other than that, like, But I'm also I don't know what. I mean, what kind of miles did you put on that thing?
I mean, not that many considering what I'm doing now, but I bought the bike and 3,000 miles later it started thumping. It's just been like that kind of weird shit ever since. You know what I mean? And then there again too, right? So like it's like we were on our way. We were getting poker chips, my brother and I, and we just happened to be in Houston and just happened to be on our way to a Harley dealership. And then I was just like, this thing lost all the power. I'm like, what the fuck's happening here? So I wheel in there, and then this dude, he's a master tech with Harley or whatever, and he comes out and he says, so what's happening? And I hate having these conversations because it can usually get out of hand quick. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, your air isn't right and your tires or something, stupid, Anyway, so like I pull in there, I'm like, it just start it and ride it and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And
so he's like, all right. So he did. And he's like, oh yeah, it's something I can tell you right now. And I was like, no shit. And he goes, this would be the first 2020 I've ever seen do that.
Never seen that before.
Because they had a real problem with it. Yeah, it is. And it's like they had a real problem with those oil pumps since 17. So he was telling me, he was like, 2020 is supposed to be the first year that it's got it all under control.
Well, apparently, I mean, I bought a 17 and I never had the issue, but I also only the first ever ridden it was I rode it to Daytona, right? And that was it. And then I bought a 2018, and that 18 actually no, it was a 19. I bought it in 18 back when they would release them in August. And I bought it the 19 model in 18 special. That had damn near 60,000 miles on it, all over the country. That's the one I ended up putting a 131 in though. I put the 131 in at 40,000 miles, and then running another 15,000 miles in that, and never had any issues and whatnot. Okay. Never had any issues with the other stuff before either.
I mean, it's a good. I like it. It's a good motor. It's got lots of power and it's fun, and but it just seems like the big bore kits and long distance are not always have the best stories for longevity.
Yeah. So what was the like? You don't just jump into a motorcycle and say, I'm about to do Hoka Hey shit. You know what I mean? Like, what's the progression to get from being an everyday Harley rider to like going down these rabbit holes of ultra long rides and stuff like that? Like, what's the mindset to like make that decision over like, oh, well, I just want to go to Sturgis this year,
So yeah, I mean, it was definitely a progression of how things evolved, right? So, the real long distance. So there's a couple different long distance styles, right? I mean, there's the guys that are just trying to put down miles. You know what I mean? They spend a lot of time on the highway and the interstates, whatever, and that's that's cool. And that's how I kind of started out. Doing a lot of iron butt rides and just looking to get those certificates. It's stupid shit, but it is what it is. And then it turned into wanting to see more shit. You know what I mean? And it's like and then you're doing 1,000 miles in 24 hours isn't like a big deal anymore. It's just like whatever. And then it turns into 1,500 miles in 24 hours, which that's a long ride. That's a long ride, but it's like you're doing these rides kind of frequently. You know what I mean? And then it's it's like it's just a weekend deal. You know what I mean? It's like not a big deal.
Yeah.
And so my buddy in Houston, Wrong Way, he works for a Ford dealership. And so he and I, we sometime this year, we went to California to visit one of the kids for Mile Monsters. So he was telling his people that he works with, he's like, yeah, he goes, I'm taking off Friday. He goes, me and Iceman, we're going to ride out to, I forget the city. It's south of Los Angeles. He says, we're going to ride out to LA and visit, Turbo, spend the day with them on Saturday, and then we're going to ride back Sunday. Mm-hmm. And then he was like telling me, he was explaining like their heads just fucking pop. It's like, you're going to ride 3,000 miles round trip for a day visit with this, like, you're not going to stop. Like, this is like they didn't even know what questions to ask. You know what I mean? And it was just in such nonchalant, hey, like this is what we're going to do this weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then
this weekend.
Next
weekend we're doing the exact same thing somewhere else.
So eventually it just kind of turns into, maybe I kind of want to challenge myself, right? And then so Hoka Hey is pretty new for me. I just heard about it in about 2021 or so, 2022.
Okay, that sounds right, yeah.
And then so I was like, I had no idea what it was. Just you hear, it's kind of like mythical, right? You just hear stories from people. And my buddy Denver Woods, he was one of the first people to tell me about it, talk to me about it. And he was telling me like the rules as he understood them at that time. And it's like, you can't use any electronics. And I'm like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? The damn bike's got electronics on it. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, and you got to sleep next to your bike and you can't, and it's like, well, that doesn't even sound interesting to me. That doesn't even sound fun. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, it's tough with the Hoka Hey. So with the Hoka Hey, it's really similar with how you were talking about. Wrong Way, he tells people about the small trip they're going to do, and these people's heads will explode. Like it's so tough to introduce them to that. And it's just like that for any Hoka Hey stuff. You're talking to any stranger on the street, you just tell them like 10,000 miles in 10 days.
Yeah, with no
you
context. No context. It's a wild thought.
Yeah. And so then you start getting in the nitty gritty. I mean, it's like, okay, do you want to do you really want to know what I'm doing? Because if so, you got 15 minutes.
Yeah, buckle up because this is a little crazy ride in itself. Yeah. So I mean, just explaining the Hoka Hey, right? Yeah. A very watered down version of it is it's usually around 10,000 miles in 10 days is the goal, right? You can't sleep in any hotels. You got to sleep next to your bike. You can't use any GPS. The rules specifically are you cannot use any electronics for navigation, right? And then so you can use your phone. You can do social media. You can do these things.
Yeah.
They give you turn-by-turn directions from checkpoint to checkpoint. So this last one, there was 3 checkpoints, and then there was a start and a finish. And so,
What does it mean, turn-by-turn directions?
So on the turn-by-turn, is it different for each rider, or is it the same?
No, it's the same route.
Okay.
It's the same route. So they'll hand you. So when we started in Daytona, they handed us 6 or 7 pages front and back, and they're paper. And we started in a hurricane.
Yeah.
So it's like. I bought some of these self-laminating sheets, and they're laminating my shit, before we start. And
It was really cool seeing the contraptions that some of these people had on their bikes to look at the stuff while they're riding without
these
the rain
bikes
touching them.
stand out for sure.
Oh my god! You can see and smell a Hoka Hey bike for miles.
So I mean, it's just the challenge part of it is what drew me to it. I mean, and I ain't gonna lie, I'm curious to know where my riding ability is amongst my peers, right? And so I was always really curious to know how I would do. And so I feel like I got that question answered for me on this last ride, even though I didn't finish very good. But I still feel like I know where I sit,
Yeah.
And so, but the challenge part of it for me is, it's just where I'm at in my life. You know what I mean? So I've built a reasonably comfortable life for myself. And so, this part in my life is, you try to stay comfortable. You know what I mean? Like you got a shitty customer, fire him. You don't, it's like, it's kind of like Rocky Balboa, and like where he loses his drive, he uses the animal in him. You know what I mean? I think it was part 3 or whatever, it's kind of like that is where I'm at, And then so what was really interesting to me about this challenge was that, I can't make it easier. You know what I mean? I mean, there's some things that you can do, like you can get some nice sleeping gear or something, but I mean, the challenge is the challenge. You got point A to point B is your destination. You can't alter that route. You know what I mean? And you're going to screw up and you're going to have problems, and it's just the way it is, you know? And, there's a couple other things like you can't, this is the first year they invoked a 100-mile-an-hour rule. If you pop triple digits, instant DQ. It wasn't even run by the Hoka Hey. It was U.S. Fleet Tracker. Yeah. So if U.S. Fleet Tracker says that you did triple digits, they ask you to get off the course. They only give you the directions to finish the ride
because they hardwire trackers on y'all's bikes.
Right. Yeah. And so, and then the other thing is if you get any moving violations, that's an instant DQ.
Chris Hopper's right when he started it, 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
Yeah. He didn't. I don't think he made it a day. He was like,
I was like, how many have you done? He said, I think it was 2. He's like 2.2. I was like, what?
So I mean, you can't. There's just for me that challenge was, you're going to take this on the chin. You're going to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not. Ironically, it's not really the miles. It's challenging. No interstates. The everything is mostly secondary roads. And so the challenge of getting through all this, and then whatever obstacles as they presented themselves to me, is what was appealing. And then so that's how my progression was. It was like, this is not even remotely interesting to me at all. The
self-challenge, right? And it's like you were chiming in on a while ago about as certain things in your life get more comfortable and kind of figured out, you being a goal-driven or whatever person, like you got to find a challenge to keep yourself not complacent,
And it's tough whenever especially if you're a business owner, you know what I mean? It's like you get settled into something that you're good at, you know what I mean? And there's no reason for you to challenge yourself, you know what I mean? My business is very niche. It's not, a whole lot of people doing it, and the people that are doing it, they're not doing it very well, So I kind of I get lazy, I'm just like, I know this is going to fly. I know this is going to be good because it's better than anything that's out there. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, I'm going to go riding this weekend. You know what I mean? And I mean, I didn't start out that way. I mean, I started off, I missed a lot of birthdays. I missed a lot of anniversaries. And, I worked my face off building my business. But now it's to the point where I'm just like, and I'm trying to, there's a long list of things that I can do to make my business better. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I'm not at that point mentally where I'm ready to buckle back in and go after it.
I get that a lot too. A lot of friends, out of good nature want to, you should do this, you should do that. But it's a balance of like comfort in a way that like is the juice worth that squeeze, right?
Right.
Like if I do this and add these extra layers of a job or a headache or responsibility, is it giving me more financially, or do I have to hire somebody now and I'm only growing 10%? Like, is it worth it? You know what I mean?
Oh,
the headaches.
Yeah.
So my company, we blew up. We did we got up to
Over 20.
Yeah, I had over 20 employees just doing drafting, and for drafting of what we do, that's insane. My biggest
like CAD drafting.
Yeah. So my customers, my competition, most of my competitors, they have one or maybe two people working in a little office. Most of my customers, they have at most 4 people drafting departments, and then I do their overflow, something like that. And we had 20 people drafting. And it was miserable, It was really exciting because you start seeing big numbers and checks, and you see big, you can puff your chest out a little bit because I'm doing millions of square foot a month, or whatever.
Yeah.
But my God, dude, it was so miserable.
Quite literally, at what cost?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then just fixing everybody's stuff, and then
Stressed out all the
your
time.
quality is not where you're used to it being, and like you say, the
the
juice
quality
is just
thing.
not worth the squeeze.
I mean, the more people, like what I do, the more people you hire to do this, like custom paint or whatever, working on bikes, like you got to hope that they care.
right?
You got to hope that they, are not going to skip corners. They're going to bite me in the ass later on. And it's just quality control is easier if you don't take more work in, you just charge more and provide a better service. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and a lot of entrepreneurs, they have a really hard time with charging more. Even charging what they're worth, is a real challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Well, it's hard to kind of convey the reason to the customer. When you have, as the only example I can give you is paint, when the average custom paint job on a bagger in Texas is probably in the $35,000 to $5,000 range, and I'm starting at $10,000. They're not going to see that. I have to sell myself to that.
Right.
Unless there are people that follow us that value the type of quality of work that we do and things like that. And that's realistic. Like I only do like 5 a year. So
Well, and then too, right? I would imagine, I don't know your business, but I would imagine you're kind of at a level now where you don't have to do a whole lot of selling. People are finding you, and they know that they want you to do their bike.
yeah, and that's kind of what you want, right?
Right.
Like when you want, if it was a generic thing that
One color.
yeah, like if there was no specialty
squirt
to
job.
it. Yeah. Then I would probably be a much different thing. But if you're doing like volume like that, that's where you have employees and you're kind of like things are all working well, but your percentage of like what you're making versus how much time you're doing, because you're not only having to do what you actually do for a business, but now you're managing people, which is it's a job
in itself, man.
Yeah.
And and if you're like, when I get connected to whoever's with me, I like to use the word empathetic. I don't know if that's the right word, but I get too caring and I am too nice, and I'm not going to be able to be a real boss.
Yeah, too lenient.
And next thing you know, it's like they start coming in 2 hours late, and it's like, oh man, I'm kind of pissed. Just the general purpose, here, what's going on, man? Like,
dude, after COVID, it's funny you bring up the time frame, man. After COVID, after we kind of started getting back to normal, I haven't had employees come in the office before. It used to be 8 to 5 is typical, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And like I haven't had an employee come to work before noon yet. And it's tough. It's like, and then that affects me, right? Because now I'm like, well, I don't get to work till 10, 11 o'clock because I know nobody's going to be there. And I'm like, I don't want to be here all damn night.
Yeah.
So,
there's aspects to it where it's like certain types of jobs are definitely stay at home. You could do a probably better job, make it, more efficient in your life than driving to a building somewhere and things like that. But there's also like, I'm not a morning person, I so badly want to be. I wish that I could just wake up early and get started on my day, but I'm such a night owl that I struggle with that. But I hate starting I usually start at 10 o'clock, but I've gotten to a point where I'm usually awake 2 hours beforehand, and I'm just kind of like, not rushing. So that's like a comfort that I've got to have now. You know what I mean? Of having a time to get ready to go to work versus like waking up 30 minutes before work and then like running out and being, on
Speeding
that
the traffic.
Yeah.
I'll say though, it's like, I started my business in my bedroom, and it was really nice whenever he was young. Him and his brother, I was at home when they went to school. I was at home when they got home from school. That's that kind of stuff you can't, you can't buy that, And so, and then, right. So they're grown and I have office space now. Right. And it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna start going to the office. It's like, okay, well, my house is 5 minutes from the office, okay, that's cool. Cause I can roll out and whatever. And then, now I'm like 30 minutes from the office, and I'm like, well, this is kind of nice because it gives me a minute I don't mind traffic. It's kind of like you kind of like you kind of get in your head a little bit, and you get to think by yourself.
Yeah.
No distractions. And
now you're one of the employees that shows up past noon.
Yeah. Well, now, I mean, it's all come full circle, but I mean, it's interesting how that progression happens. You know what I mean? It's like there's value in all those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, it changes too where you're at in your life, and
Well, I was telling Chase last night at bike night. I was telling him that like bike night is my real weekly social interaction.
Nice,
right? Because most of the week I'm alone here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have guests in right now doing a podcast, but for the most of the weeks that I work in the shop, there's nobody here. It's just me all day by myself. Like whether I'm upstairs working on the bench and watching YouTube, or down there like manual laboring away or something like that. So bike night gives me a chance to go socialize and like just get out of the business side of it. And also like I haven't done it as much since Sturgis, but I used to go out eat every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I'll go to Chipotle or Buffalo, just somewhere to go eat lunch. That way, once again, I'm around people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I don't know. I can't, like, I'm alone all fucking day. Nobody's here, at all. It gets kind of weird.
No, I can imagine. So it's funny is like I consider myself, I lean into that, you know what I mean? Because I'm not big on people, right?
Yeah.
And so, but what's really kind of there's a stretch of this ride, the Hoka Hey, where we went through Canada, the Yukon specifically. They called it the wormhole, right? Because no GPS, no like the trackers couldn't find us. You know what I mean? It was just
crazy.
No civilization. You'd be on the road for hours and not see anybody. And it's frustrating because for me, because I was on a tire that was, I could see the belts in my tire.
Yeah.
There's no Harley dealerships out there. There's no way I can get any kind of help if I need any help. I can't call anybody. Yeah. You know what I mean? Gas stations aren't really a thing. It's weird, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, there's this one place. Most of the gas stations are RV parks, right? And then so you go to this RV park, and they have the big LP tanks, and then they have like the 80s style gas tank or the gas pump right next to it.
Yeah.
You go into the place, hopefully if they're open. You go into the place, you tell them to turn the pump on. You go back out, you pump the gas, you take a picture of how much gas you took, you take the picture to them, and then they charge you, they write it up, and then they take your credit card, one of those things, and I'm just like,
and also
where are we?
You're also doing 1,000 miles a day while you're doing this.
Trying to.
Yeah.
So, and then the roads are just trash. They have real bad frost heaves up there. And so I remember I was at this one spot, and I'd asked the guy, I just looked at him, and there was a guy in front of me. He was filling up his RV. And so, this guy's got 2 customers. It's like most people he's seen all day. He's like, hey, And then so I looked at him and I said, how close is it to civilization?
Yeah.
And he thought I was joking, and he kind of was like, and he looked at me and he was like, about 40 kilometers that way. It's just like, this, I've had enough of this. You know what I mean? And I'm not really like a social butterfly or nothing, but like when you go without, if I ever wanted to disappear, it's Canada, man. You're not going to find me, but
how were the views?
Well, they were beautiful at first, and it's like that shit wears off quick when you're trying to figure out if you're going to run out of gas. The gas stations are so crazy, the available amount of gas, right? So it's like, I remember stopping after I just filled up, and I had only burned through a quarter of a tank, and I seen this other place, and I pulled in again and filled up at a quarter of a tank because I didn't know when the next one was going to be, and you can't look at your phone. You can't, you're not supposed to look at your phone. Yeah. You're not supposed to do all that stuff, right? So then I remember filling up with a quarter of a tank. And then I remember being on empty, like coasting into a place that was luckily open, Like they were about to close for the day.
Damn, how big of a stretch was that? Because you have the tank on it as well.
I can't. You're not allowed to run ox tanks for the Hoka Hey.
Oh.
You're not even allowed to carry like a can of gas.
Right.
Like if you wanted to carry like a Gatorade bottle of gasoline.
Then yeah, you're not supposed to.
Fuck, I didn't even think about
no
that.
emergency shit. Yeah.
So, and that's a big safety blanket for me, because I normally run an ox tank, and I don't normally practice, if you will, riding without one, And so, yeah, so like that stretch was just 3/4 of a tank, but I mean,
You're doing this on the 2023?
Yeah, on the CVO, yeah. So,
What do those things get into a tank with, that motor and all that shit?
So, if he rides it, yeah, I'm pretty heavy-handed. But you can stretch them. You can get 40 plus pretty easily for a normal rider. Miles per gallon, and so they still got 6-gallon tanks. So whatever that works out to, I know some guys are getting 200 plus pretty easily.
I imagine I was getting, and I know this was a shocker to you. I was getting 250 to the tank on the 131 on his 131.
That is a shocker to me. I never got more than 200 out of it.
Yeah, I had to take pictures to prove it to him. He didn't think the bike could do that.
Well, like the reserve is like telling you have 250, and my friends would say shit like that. I'm like, man, just clock your miles. I want to see what you're really doing.
Run it out. Let's see what happens.
Because I'm like, I just did 140 miles and my shit's on E.
Yeah, exactly.
And it started out saying 240 miles.
Okay, yeah.
So,
So, and that was one of the things is, like I said, I normally run an ox tank on my CV on all my bikes.
Yeah.
And so coming in, knowing that I was going to do the Hoka Hey, I would frequently run my main gas tank out, knowing that I got my reserve, so that I knew, like when it would say this, what it would actually be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then so what I was finding was normally when I got down to 1/4 of a tank, or whenever it got down to the red line where it said low fuel, that it would say there was 30 miles left at that moment. And then it would go from 30 miles, showing the digital readout would say 30 miles a gallon, but it would like start counting down miles like a freaking stopwatch. You know what I mean? It was like, this is no way that I'm just burning through 3 miles in a minute here. You know? And then so, but interestingly, the mileage was not far off, but it's like the bike's in a hurry to get down to it telling you no fuel left.
Low range,
Yeah, and then when it has 0 miles left on the bike, usually I was getting in like 20, 25 miles.
On 0?
On 0, yeah. So, but
well, it'd be good to know that though, like you said, like if you have the reserve and you can run it out and find.
Yeah. There's no way I'm going to do that without a reserve tank. You know what I mean? It's just too inconvenient. Even if I had a gas tank, and you know what I mean. But and then also like you're riding and then it says whatever, and then it doesn't sputter. It's out. Done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't like that. It's just like it turns off. I'm like, oh shit, I'm out of gas. So then you flip the valve on the reserve tank, and before the bike stops, it fills up fast enough to where I can turn it on and go.
So when you kicked off this year's Hoka Hey, like Daytona, you immediately go to Key West. Is it just literally like to touch the bottom?
Southern buoy, yeah.
Yeah.
So the original Hoka Hey was in 2010, and it was set up as a race. And that was the last time that it was a race. It had a $500,000 prize for first place. And they've been trying very hard to shed the race aspect of it because they want it to be a challenge and to be, and I get both sides of it. You know what I mean? It's just human nature. If you have a beginning and an end and a time frame to get there.
You want to compete.
Yeah. You know what I mean? You don't even have to say it's a race, but I'm going to say I beat you there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's still a race for a lot of people, including yourself.
Damn right.
All the people finish first. Because you can't do it without racing.
So, but the first route in 2010 was the route that we just did. So this was the 10th event. They used to do them every year, and then they switched to every other year, every 2 years. And so the years are kind of weird, but it's the 10th event. So this was the anniversary.
Yeah.
So that's why we did this one again. And
Nice.
so this was the exact route that the inaugural Hoka Hey was on. So, we started in Daytona. We went down to Key West or the Keys, and then hit that buoy, and then we had this weird route. Did you see the route?
A little bit of it. It's kind of like you kind of zigzag a little bit coming up and then cut straight through like Kansas or Nebraska or one of those or something like that.
So as the crow flies, right? I think that's a thing. As the bird flies, is that?
I think crow flies.
Crow flies, yeah.
I don't have any signal in here. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good luck.
Tell you that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not going to be able to show you
Yeah.
this.
You can see it online.
But it's only 5,000 ish miles as the crow flies, right, from Key West to Homer, Alaska.
Yeah.
But if like they want it to be 10,000 miles, so then they had to add some zigzags in there. So we got to a point where we went across Oklahoma, down through Arizona, back up into Utah, back over. Our second checkpoint was in Wyoming, and then from there we went over to Sturgis, and then back over to Montana. You know what I mean? And then so it's funny because like you're explaining this to some people, and it's like a lot of people aren't going to understand the mileage. You know what I mean? Either it's a big number and they can't wrap their head around it, or they don't understand that it's not interstate miles.
Yeah.
It's back roads, curvy roads, and I'll tell you that. This ride had some of the most beautiful roads that I've ever been on a motorcycle. And they're all connected by the shittiest roads I've ever been on a motorcycle, and that's kind of the Hoka Hey, right? It's like,
A lot of people off-roading brand new bikes.
Like finding those gems of roads, it comes at a price all the time because, like my trip this summer, I'm specifically going to these areas of the country that are known to be badass. And you're literally with thousands of people also there, like doing a Glacier, doing the Sun Road. It's like, I always wanted to do this. Could do without the crowd that's behind you that takes away the nature feel that you're coming here for, but
that's what's fun about riding during the week. I really like riding like on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and stuff. I mean, nobody's out doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? Out checking
Doing
stuff
out.
out. Yeah. So
well, and I never got the challenge thing for a long time. Whenever I started getting into motorcycling, I started doing like a little I started doing real heavy distance riding, going to the Twisted Sisters for a day or something like that. With my dad, and he'd be on the way to somewhere else after that. But I never got it. I never understood why
the appeal.
What's the deal? You're doing 1,000 miles and you're ending at home. I don't get it. But it's the challenge thing. And I was describing it to Devin last night. And I didn't get it until Hoka Hey, but it's the same reason people run marathons. They don't do it because they want to go somewhere. They do it because it's hard. They do it because they want to feel accomplished. And so I think that's the biggest reason that you didn't quit this last year. So first of all, and this is
I had a few things.
A couple of things. Well, first of all, he almost got kicked out of the IBA. He set the record doing fastest 1K in a day.
Oh yeah,
IBA hated it.
So I don't. Are we recording?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay. So I did. I ruffled some feathers. We'll just say that. So there's two kind of big outfits that certify rides, right? The Ride 1K in a day, which I'm an ambassador for now, and then the IBA, Iron Butt Association.
Yeah.
And then so the Iron Butt Association is like, I don't want to talk trash about them because I have this weird thing where I'm like, it's strangely addicting to get these certificates. It's so stupid. It's like. And a lot of guys will tell you, I don't need a certificate. And yeah, you're right. And I don't either, but it's just weird how, it's like you get it and it's like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then so Ride 1K in a day, they keep records on different types of things, right? Iron Butt, they're real big about not speeding, you know what I mean? Not being, they like to use the word unsafe. But what's so frustrating to me is like that speeding is, you're implying that speeding is unsafe when you say it like that.
Yeah.
When you're holding records for 1,500 miles in 24 hours is a lot of people are doing these rides in 23 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is way more unsafe to be on your motorcycle for 23 hours without sleep than speeding at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Right.
Can be. Depends on the rider.
Right. If you're doing 100 miles an hour in a school zone, maybe that's pretty unsafe. But
allegedly, I'd ruffled some feathers. So
I did my first 1K was in 2014 or 15 actually. And we did all the certificates. We went from here to Phoenix. It was like 1,100 miles.
Okay.
And at the time, I was in a bike club, so my secretary was keeping track of all our receipts and doing all that for us. Mm-hmm. And then he prepared each one of us like a folder with all our shit in it to mail it in when we got home.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I still have the folder.
That's crazy.
I never mailed it, and it wasn't because
some shit I do.
It wasn't because I didn't want certificate. I just kind of kept losing track of it and forgetting about it. And then I did another 1K, and then it became a part of traveling. Especially living in the center of the country, and you want to go to the coast or anywhere. It's like, well, kind of wanted to get the fuck out of here as fast as possible.
Yep.
And so you end up running 1,000 miles just about everywhere, at least 800.
Well, and that's kind of how a lot of these IBA guys. That's usually what's going on, right? It's like there's a ride to eat, or there's an event, or there's something going on the other side of the country, and it's like, well, we'll just get there as fast as we can, and
I got to work on Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, and then like on my way back from the Hoka Hey, I did 4,000 miles in 4 days. That was that's a certified ride, So I'm like.
This dude pulled up in rough shape to the finish line. I don't know if you've heard any.
How many miles is it straight from Anchorage back to here, like to San Antonio?
Let's see. It was so I went from Anchorage to Valdez, and then so that was, I think that's around 300 or 400 miles, and then so from Valdez I went straight home from Valdez, and so that was a little better than 4,000 miles.
So once you complete the ride, like you're able to have a gas can and all those type of things, right?
Yes, and I mailed my aux tank to
Alaska. That's what I was saying. I thought I saw you attaching all that stuff. So
and so like I still don't have my plate.
Yeah,
I have I had a custom made plate that attached my Pelican tour pack and my aux tank, and it's really badass because it's on a quick connect. I take the whole thing off, and it kind of changed the bike pretty fast and easy. And so I left the plate on the bike and just took the gas tank off. And so when I was in Daytona, I just mailed the gas tank to myself in Alaska.
Yeah.
And so after my wreck, I couldn't lift the bike up off the kickstand because I was just all busted up. I didn't have the strength to do it. So when we were at the impound or the tow yard, I was like, let's just take everything off the bike. So the plate was one of those things, And then so I get about halfway through my ride, and so I'm telling him, like, hey, mail me that plate, because I'm feeling better now, and I could use it, and it would be more convenient than what I got. When did you have
I know you had the wreck, but when was that in correlation to this whole?
Let's talk about the wreck, like in depth a little bit, because it's an integral part of the story, I think.
So okay, so I wrecked on day 2, but so we started out on August 4th, which was a Sunday, and the big worry was the Hurricane Debbie was coming through Florida, and so my personal journey or whatever, right? So like I'm a rookie. My number's 1220, and they lined everybody up by number this year, which I think is the first time they've done it this way.
How many riders were there?
225. Okay, and so I could see the end of the line. I mean, I'm like, they're like 4 or 5 bikes behind me is the end of the line, and then so. When we get rolling, they have somebody that is like a pace car, and then after we pass them, then we can do anything, but you're not allowed to pass anybody until you pass that pace car, right, or the pace bike or whatever. So once we passed that dude, it was open season. Just don't go 100 miles an hour. And then, so, man, dude, I was like, for like until noon, I mean, I was just chewing up. I was making some pretty good ground, and I was just like, I was like, I know I'm pissing everybody off, but I'm just like, I'd get in this lane and just hit 98, and I'm just like, yeah, I know, I'm an asshole. Yep. So see you guys,
Well, and there were 2 different types of riders on the first day, right? There was the riders that were trying to get in front of the storm, and the riders that were waiting it out because there was that hurricane hitting, right?
Well, so the first day was the tropical storm in the Keys, and so
a lot of riders dropped out first day.
So so like as I was making pretty good ground, and I was kind of getting my feet wet, so to speak, and get the good feel of the directions and everything, right? And I had a huge mistake around noon, 2 o'clock somewhere in there. I had a huge 3-hour bust, and I basically ended up at the back of the line again, and I was just pissed. And
did you take a wrong turn or something?
I took a wrong turn, and I dug in, and I was just like, I know I'm right, and it's like. And I wasn't. And
how do you correct that? Like, how do you find out you fucked up?
The directions stopped making sense. So it's like like a line of directions will say, at 12 mile or 10 miles, turn right onto this road, and then you're going to follow that for 15 miles, turn left on this.
Do they
road.
give you road names at least? Or anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then so, and the fun part of that is sometimes a road has multiple names. So they'll list all 3 names, but whenever the road separates, it's like, that was one of my biggest problems is like, it might say stay on this road for 300 miles, but you had to make 15 turns to stay on that road. You know what I mean? And so that's some just stuff I don't normally pay attention to.
Yeah, and you can't map it because you get handed the stuff right there at the
And
start.
I think there was a couple guys that did. They spent a little time with an atlas, but there's only so much you can see with an atlas. You know what I mean? And so anyway, I'm on day 1 and I blew it and I'm all in my head and I just lost 3 hours and I'm all just pissed off. And then so I'm just like, well, you wanted a challenge, man. Buckle up. It's going to be a long 10 days,
Yeah.
And then so when I went into it, my goal was 1,000 miles a day. I wanted to do it in 10 days. And I could have I don't want to say easily, but that was definitely a doable goal, And so as I'm trying to, figure out, just calm down and regroup, I get pulled over. Right as I'm getting into the keys, I get pulled over by this cop. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Like Chris Hopper.
And it's so
This day 1, right?
Yeah. Day 1. I hadn't even hit any weather yet, really. I mean, we dodged a couple tornadoes, but I mean, it wasn't like what we were about to get into. Yeah. So this cop pulls me over, and he's like, he comes at me kind of hard, like you went into this turn only lane, you cut in front of all these cars, and you cut all. I was like, that's not. Listen, I know that's what you saw, but that's not what happened. I'm like, what happened was this. I'm from San Antonio. I don't know where the hell I'm at. I was like, I saw 2 lanes of traffic, and then so I was in this lane, and then I come up to this light was turning red, so I stopped, and I'm like, oh hell, I'm in a turning lane, and I look over at this car, and I'm like, hey dude, is it cool if I get in front of you? And he was like, yeah. Well, this cop had pulled over, and he was watching all this in his mirror, and he just thought that I was just being an asshole, and I'm like, and I am an asshole, but I mean, I was like, this time I wasn't intentionally being an asshole, And so he was cool with me. He didn't even write me a warning. He's like, all right, we'll just be safe. And so I was just like, okay. I was like, because for my fundraising, I had these squares, like football squares.
Yeah.
And one of them was, will I even make it out of the keys? Yeah. And I'm like, I ain't even made it to the keys at this point, and I'm like, I'm already blown my deal. Oh, it was frustrating. Yeah. Anyways, so I'm coming into the keys and we're getting some nasty weather, and wind's blowing, it's raining. Debbie's a tropical storm at this area or whatever. And I thought it was 2 storms, but I'm not really sure. But I'm like, man, I haven't passed anybody in a long time, and I'm riding kind of aggressive, and I'm like, man, what the hell's going on, And I'm like looking at my route, I'm like, well, you're on the keys, you can't really screw that up, And then so what I was finding was it was kind of low visibility because of the storm that I'm riding through. When I started noticing there's like packs of riders that have pulled off on to get shelter.
A lot of people were packing up in the first. A good, all throughout the whole ride, a lot of people would pack up, like 5-6 riders together,
Yeah. Because they were just, the challenge was just, like maybe if you have a couple guys with you.
So you can finish.
And so, a lot of guys, they're buddies and, they rode together as buddies and that was that, and that's cool. That's your jam, whatever. Yeah. But so I'm noticing that I was halfway down the keys and then I realized that I was making up a lot of ground that I'd screwed up earlier because all these people had pulled over,
Yeah.
And then I'm like, man, shit, maybe I should pull over, like, is this really this bad, but I had brand new tires and, I just, like I said, throughout the whole ride, it was never anything about being macho or anything like that. It just, everything felt good. You know what I mean? Like I never felt unsafe on my bike until I started falling asleep. Mm. But the bike itself, you know what I mean? So like I'm riding through bad weather and it's like, it was a little windy, I'll say, but it wasn't like I thought I was going to wipe out. Yeah. And I've felt like that before and I've pulled over,
Yeah.
So anyways, by the time I get through the keys, you get down to the southern point and you come back,
one way in, one way out.
Yeah, and then so like as I'm coming out, I'm seeing all these bikes that I passed and I was like, holy shit, I'm not, I'm back in the hunt. That's cool, And then so I rode my first day, I rode 1,046 miles. And I was a little better than middle of the pack by the time I decided to by the time I started to go to sleep, and that was around midnight. And I noticed my buddy Riot, who was out in front the same day, we were both using Rever to track our miles. And he had 1,000, think he had 1,050 miles and I had 1,040 or 49 or somewhere in there. It wasn't that far off. We did the same mileage.
Yeah.
And he was way the hell out in front of me because I'd blown it. I screwed up so much earlier that day. I was just like, oh, it's all right. I mean, it's cool. It's cool. So then the second day I got up early. I only slept for like 4 hours at a gas station. And I hit the road and it was nasty, but it wasn't, crazy. You know what I mean? The lack of visibility was kind of an issue, but, I left at 4-ish. And so, by the time the sun came out really good, then it started getting really wet. You know what I mean? And that's when he started going into the hurricane. And so,
where are you at this point?
I'm close to, I'm north of Orlando. I'm close to, I'm North Florida, so I'm pretty close to getting into Georgia, somewhere in that area. And so I took the only pictures that I could take on my phone were screenshots because it was just so wet and everything was messed up. So I was taking screenshots of me on the weather app. The little blue dot shows where you're at, and it shows the hurricane. But I got the pictures. Cool. It shows the hurricane. And then it shows where I'm at. It shows me actually crossing the path of the hurricane.
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty badass.
Everywhere around him.
I'm like,
how close did you get to the eye?
I'll show you.
I've ridden through quite a bit of like the tails or tail whips of it, or however you would say that.
Yeah.
Never within like anything close to an eye though. You know what I mean?
So you can just scroll. And you can see the progression of that. Oh, shit, of course. You can see the progression of the blue dot,
Oh, shit, it came and hooked back, huh?
So, yeah, I don't know which way you're going, but it shows that blue dot. It actually crosses the center line of that storm. And so the actual eye was, it wasn't too far from me. But by the time I got into Georgia, I was in the middle, I guess you would say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see it right there. Yeah, you're right there. Looks like you're within like maybe 40 miles of the center line.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And so I was like, this is my.
Well, how strong were the winds? I mean, was it manageable?
Yeah. Well, and again, like I said, I never felt unsafe because if I feel unsafe, I'm not stupid. I'm not gonna intentionally die for something.
The only rain I've ever kind of like tapped out on was hydroplane and stuff.
Yeah.
When it gets to a point where you feel like you're going to start sliding around on the bike.
Yeah, and that's happened.
You had a nasty one a few years ago.
Yeah, I wiped out like that in 21.
Yeah, I was still getting kind of started. My dad went missing behind me. I was like, where the fuck my dad go? Hydroplane in front of an 18-wheeler and shit.
Yeah, that was funny. That 18-wheeler, that was not my fault.
Made the news, but we weren't there.
Yeah.
We were gone.
That was pretty damn funny.
Yeah.
So that's day 2, right? So I'm going through this storm, and this was still pretty early in the day, and I don't know. I guess it was probably I was in Georgia. I'd met up with Riot. He was out in front, and then so I got a couple text messages. Like, holy shit, I can't believe you're riding through the hurricane, and dude, you're kicking ass. And I didn't really know because I didn't pass anybody because I didn't see everybody pulled off. You know what I mean? And a lot of times I was like, man, am I on the right road? I'm not seeing anybody. I'm not,
Yeah. It's not just US Fleet Tracker that can see the trackers. We can all track whoever we want to, Mm-hmm. So if you want, you can type in 1220 and look at Iceman, see exactly where he's at, And so a lot of people were tracking and just seeing and then that's when they're texting you. You're like, oh,
yeah, you're out there, you're out in front. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm on the right track at least, right? So, I've known Riot for a while now, and he's that dude. He rides. He's a hard rider, and so I can comfortably say that I could probably follow him anywhere. You know what I mean? But for somebody to set that pace like he does, that's hard riding. And so he'd asked me. I was asking him some questions before the Hoka Hey, and I was like, just trying to figure out where I need to put my focus. And he was like, dude, if you want, you can follow me. And I mean that's an instant top 10 finish. You know what I mean? Easy. You know what I mean? And I was like, dude, I'm flattered, but I got to decline because I want this to be my own thing this first time. And so he's like, yeah, I get that. That's cool. So whenever I'd caught up with him, it was pretty funny because he was telling his wife. He was telling his wife something about doing 90 in a hurricane, and there's like a handful of us that are doing that. And then she goes, "Well, how do you know that these other guys are doing 90?" He goes, "Because I'm doing 90 and Iceman's right on my ass. I'm not getting any ground on him, you know." So that was funny. Anyway, so I met up with him, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful day. At this point in time, we got to the other side of the storm, and one of the big reasons that I wanted to kind of push it through that storm is because I knew that it was going to bring nasty shit. It was going to bring bad roads, and there's a lot of trees that I dodged. They got knocked down. It's just all this crap that a hurricane's going to bring. You know what I mean? Yeah. All the people behind us had to deal with. So I had a nice buffer. And so it was just like, it was just an enjoyable, awesome ride, and I got to meet up with my buddy Riot, and it was just like an awesome, weekend ride or whatever, Yeah. And then so I don't know, we shared probably a tank and a half of gas or so, and right at the beginning though, he goes, "Well, why don't you go out in front?" He goes, "I don't want to take nothing from your experience." He goes, "So why don't you go ahead and go out in front?" And he goes, "If you don't see me in your rearview mirror," he says, "you probably made a wrong turn." So I was like, "That's badass, man. Thanks." So. We did that for a little while, and like I said, we probably ran through about a tank and a half, and then Hopper he texts me and he's like, "Hey, don't forget it's a marathon." He goes, "Yeah, make sure you get rest." Because I'd made up a lot of ground in that first day because I was so far behind, and then I was out in the front with Riot.
I had told my girlfriend, I was like, I'm pretty damn nervous about him being in front so early.
Yeah, because nobody gets not a lot of people will finish out in front. In fact, it's rare that somebody is out in front that early and finishes that way.
That's exactly what I was saying. Yeah,
And so K Solo and Hopper were doing live streams, and I watched K Solo. He goes, "Iceman's out in front." He goes, "How'd that happen?" It was pretty cool.
Legitimately overnight.
And so it was just an awesome ride. And then I was like, "Yes, Hop, I am going to get some sleep because I didn't get a lot of sleep the night before, and I'm not trying to win. I just, I got a good little everything's good the way it is. I'm gonna be responsible and mature and all this shit. I ain't got nothing to prove to nobody." And so, me and Riot, we come up to this last gas station, and I said, "Hey, man, I'm gonna take a nap. All my gear's soaked, and we were been riding in the rain, and for all this time, all my shit's still waterlogged." And I was like,
"You just dry it, like take it to like a Love's and use one of their facilities, or
no? I just took off all my clothes at this gas station, this Indian's gas station, just some place in Georgia, and then I laid out all my stuff, and then I bought some cheeseburgers and shit, and I was just like, I'm just gonna eat some food, I'm gonna take a nap, I'm gonna let my shit dry out for a little bit, I'll catch up with you guys later,
Yeah.
And then so, I mean, I wasn't butt naked, but I wasn't, I could see where the frustration would come from. So this guy comes out and he's like, "Hey man," he goes, "What the hell? You can't be out here." I was like, I'm just chilling, He's like, "Yeah, man, you got
you can see through your underwear."
Yeah, you're scaring the customers.
He's like,
"Those are white."
I'm like, "Yeah, I had all my shit all laid out, trying and everything, my boots and everything." It's a funny picture.
Yeah.
And then so I said, I was like, "Yeah, man, I guess I get that." I said, "Well, here," I said, "I just bought all this shit from you." I said, let me eat, and then I'll get out your hair." And then so I did. I took about an hour to do that, and then I get back on the road, and then about 8 o'clock, damn coyote comes out, and I just got done riding through an area of Alabama that I'd never been, and it was a lot of fun, and it was just really cool roads and shit that I didn't expect.
Like north of Birmingham
Alabama.
And all that?
Yeah. It was actually north east.
So what's like a Muscle Shoals or something over there?
Well, where I wrecked was Morris. And so like I just came out into Morris.
Okay.
But so all that riding in there, it was phenomenal.
From what I've heard, that area is kind of like an untapped like motorcycle gym of like cool little waterfalls and like rivers that kind of, like scenery, like to ride through.
Yeah.
Very rural.
So this is the last picture I took before my wreck. If you zoom in on it, you can see what the road's doing. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool. Let me see if I can get this right.
It's like playing shuffleboard.
Oh yeah.
So like if you zoom in on that road, you can see how
Ooh, yeah, just kind of.
Dude, that was about 2 hours of that. you know, and I was watching the sunset, and it was just amazing. It was just amazing, you know, and you're by yourself, you know, there's nobody else at this point riding with me or anything. And so I pulled out onto 31, and I was like, I'm looking at my directions to make sure, you know, I'm on the right road. This is what the directions look like.
Damn.
Yeah. And
at least they put colors that way, you know, on the next one.
Yeah. And then so I looked down at my directions, and then boom, I felt, you know, I see that damn coyote comes out. He comes running this way. And then he hits it feels like he hits me in the forks. And then so he knocks me into this drainage ditch. It's grass filled, right? Yeah. So it's you know, like they had it was grass and it was wet. And so like immediately as I hit the grass, I was like, this will be a nice place to wipe out. You know, this is nice and soft, you know. And that was my first thought. And then as I'm coming down, it's like a V, right? And then so like as I come down to the bottom of it, I hit this concrete drainage, you know, whatever, and knocks me to it catapults me up to my feet. And so I'm standing on my bike and I'm still got it upright. And I was like, wow, this, you know, it's like in your head, you're like, man, this is actually kind of cool. You know, I got this all worked out. Yeah. And then so I'm making my way back up to the other side, the incoming traffic side. And I just remember thinking, nobody's going to believe this. Nobody's going to believe that I rode this thing through here like this, you know? Yeah. And as soon as, you know, I get up there to the shoulder-ish area where the gravel is kind of at, the back end of my bike comes over.
Yeah, and then it's probably falling down the hill.
Back end of the bike comes over, and then I lay it down this way, and then the traction grabs the tires and flips it over that way. And then I went over the bike.
Man, I rode with him to Florida, so to the start line. We were going to crash a little 1K out there. We started at 12 a.m. I went to bike night on Tuesday, left from bike night, met my dad at a shop, and then we went 1,000 miles to Florida. Neither of us slept the night before. Yeah. We left at 12 a.m. and by 6 a.m. my fucking bike broke down. But anyway, I ended up in Florida with them. I shot a bunch of pictures and all that, and then I head back home. I didn't check the tracker. I didn't check nothing. I was tired. I was sleepy. I was doing another 1K home.
Yeah.
And so it's like I get home, I didn't even look at my phone or nothing. I was a bad son. My dad's out there, you know, in a hurricane. Like I said, I didn't even check the tracker once. And then I was getting texts, you know, your dad's a killer, he's killing it. I'm like, cool, yeah, thanks, man. I'm like, tell him too. You know, like you need to like tell him. So, but then I woke up. It was like 6 a.m. I woke up to a call, and like who? And it's his girlfriend calls me, and she's called me maybe once before looking for him, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is fucking weird, you know. And so I was like, maybe she's. I don't. It was 6 a.m. I wasn't thinking at all. And so I answer it, and then I put her on speaker, and I'm looking at all the stuff, and I have messages all out. I don't know if it was 6 a.m. It was early though, and I'm talking to her on the phone. She's like, "Hey," I was like, well, "What's up?" She's like, "How are you doing?" I was like, "What's up, dude? Like, what?"
You don't ever call me. What's?
Yeah, it's so like by the time she gets it out, I've read like my dad's for sure wrecked, and I was like, "Oh shit, okay." And she was like, "Are you going to get your dad?" And then I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then one of them was my dad texting me, "Call me whenever you can," you know, like at your earliest convenience, please contact me, you know. And I mean, he broke a bunch of shit, and so. I drove out to Alabama, and that was whenever I called you. I called this guy right after I got off the phone with her, and I was like, "What's up?" He's like, "Oh, I wrecked." I was like, "So what's up?" You know?
Yeah. Need a ride?
Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, I mean, I got a little messed
up here to pick me up."
Yeah. I was like, "What?" Like, and he was like, "Yeah, bike's probably totaled. You know, broke a bunch of shit." And
I couldn't. So like that night when I wrecked, you know, so I was my hand was the biggest problem, you know, because I couldn't use my hand. I couldn't use a clutch. And so, you know, as they're about to take me off in the ambulance, the guys were like, is your bike even rideable? And I just walked over to the clutch and I tried to pull the clutch in and I couldn't. And I was just like, I'm not even interested in knowing anything. You know what I mean? I it might be, but you know, I'm not rideable, you know? Yeah. So I went to the hospital that night, Birmingham. And that was kind of a shit show. They discharged me. I got there about 9 o'clock or so. They discharged me at 6 in the morning. Never got a room. Never got, you know, it was just overcrowded. It had like was like a Tuesday or Monday or Tuesday, and they had like 3 gunshot people in there. It was just like, this is crazy. You know, it was like,
It was a trauma hospital, right?
and so, and then turns out they just closed the hospital not close by close by. And so like they were taking a lot of overflow from anyways. Yeah. So, at this point, I'm just trying to figure out logistics, you know? And then so I had my doctor write me a script for some pain pills, and prior to me leaving, just in case, I was like, and I told him, I was like, look, I don't want to be somewhere stranded, you know, and you know, I want to be able to get through enough pain to get to where I can be safe. You know what I mean? So he wrote me a script for some things, and so the hospital discharged me. They didn't give me any pain meds. They didn't give me nothing, and then so they gave me a sling, and so it was 6 a.m, and my phone was about to die, and I was like, I don't have any. I was just like, it just everything just sucked. You know, I was just like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know nothing. I can't use my hand. I'm just like, so I walked to this hotel, which is an instant DQ for Hoka Hey.
Oh right, yeah.
So I go to this hotel to basically just set up shop. You know what I mean? Because like I got to get my shit together. You know, like I need to know what's happening and what I'm gonna do. So the first thing I did was I go walking into this place. And I have my hospital shirt on, and I got some road rash on my shoulder, and it's already all bled through, and it's looking gnarly, right? And stinks. Yeah. And so, like, I'm walking in there, and I'm looking like there's a lot of homeless people out there too, you know. Yeah. And then so it's like you walk, like there's homeless people sleeping outside of the hotel. You know what I mean? And I kind of look like one of them. Yeah. And then so she's eyeballing me walking up to the counter, and you know it's like early in the morning. You know most places won't let you check in that early. Yeah. And then so I'm like, look, I'm a long way from home. I said my phone's got 10% on it. I said can I get a room, and do y'all have any chart? Like I'm just telling her all my problems, you know, and she's just like, you know, she's really nice, and she goes, look, let me go talk to my boss and let me see if I can even let you in here, you know. Yeah. So she was cool. She gave me a room at a discounted rate. And then like I'm kind of getting, you know, going or whatever. And she looks at me and she goes, I hope you have a better day today. Thank you.
What were the
injuries?
I appreciate that.
So they discharged me with a broken collarbone, a fractured shoulder, and tendon damage in my hand. Mm-hmm. And so nothing was severed or anything like that, because like they did x-rays, but they didn't do MRIs. So like they could tell from like the tendon damage or whatever, like since I could kind of use my hand a little bit, that they said if it was severed, if there's anything in there like that, you wouldn't be able to do this with your hand or whatever. So it's like whatever, it still hurts like a bitch, and I can't use the clutch. That's all I know.
I got pictures of it. Thing was swelled up like a golf ball, or a golf ball, like a softball. You know, it was huge.
Potato with toothpicks for fingers. You know, it was weird.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I get to the hotel, and I'm trying to figure out my next move. You know, and then so I'm kind of staying off social media. You know, it's kind of a nightmare for me. You know, because I'm like, I don't really want to deal with this.
Yeah, answering all the questions. And
you know, it's like it makes it more real. You know what I mean?
A million people reaching out because your tractor stopped moving. You know, after all the progress.
And then so
many people reached out to me even.
Well, so I reached out to him. So he's 12 hours away, so I still got shit to figure out. First thing that I did from the motel was I used Uber Eats to get a phone charger and a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Yeah. And I was like, we can start from here, you know? And then so anyways, so we got all that figured out. And then he shows up, and then it was, I don't know, about 11 or 12 o'clock at night when he shows up. And then we get up the next morning, and I could move these 2 fingers. I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. You know, I was like, it hadn't even been 24 hours, and I'm already I get this kind of progress, because yesterday I couldn't do shit, you know? Yeah. And then so I was like, take me to my bike. I got to go see what we can see, you know? Yeah. And plus I got pain meds there and my bike, you know?
On the way to Birmingham, I made arrangements. We all made arrangements for his bike. You know, the Houston dealers are like super huge help with Hoka Hey stuff, Mile Monster stuff, and so they're gonna actually go get his bike from Houston.
Yeah, they get his bike. They sponsored me for this ride. They gave me tires and bearings and all kinds of cool shit. You know, new battery and all that stuff.
Yeah, but so I mean, like that was all situated. Everything was situated.
Yeah.
But,
so
what's up?
So the battery, the bike ended up being salvageable.
So we're the next morning I was like, take me to my bike so I can go get my shit. You know what I mean? And that I'm gonna he's going to give me a ride home and the dealership's going to come get my bike. When we left the motel, that was the idea. That was what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so like the whole way there, I'm just working my hand and I'm just like, man, this is kind of cool, Yeah. And then so we get 10 minutes from the place and I look up the master tracker that shows everybody's, everybody. And I was like, that's kind of cool, man. I said, I'm still like in the middle of the pack, So that's kind of neat.
It's been 36 hours or something like that, right?
Yeah, it was 40 hours is all the time that I spent dicking around with the hospital on my bike and all that shit.
Yeah.
So we get to the place. And, it always looks worse than it is, you know what I mean? And so I was kind of deflated, but I was like, let's see if it starts up, Yeah. So started up, no engine code, no tip code, no codes, just started right up and it sounded good. And I was like,
everything was dry. There was no leaks.
That's cool, man. No busted crank or anything. Just everything was just, It's like, all right, that's cool, I said, well, help me get some of this shit off here. And he's getting agitated.
Yeah. I was getting kind of pissed off because he kept asking me to basically fix his bike, like he can't use duct tape. And so he's like, hey, wrap these things. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? You're not riding home. We have arrangements. There's no reason for you to ride home. You can get in the truck and it'll be way safer. Yeah. Unnecessary risk,
So I'm like, hey, tape that highway peg to the crash bar and help me, and I kept saying help me, but what I meant was, can you do?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't do
exactly
shit.
That. Yeah.
I couldn't apply any pressure to this side and I couldn't use this hand. So I was just kind of like,
he's asking me to do all these things and I watched him struggle to get in the truck because he couldn't move his arm to open the door, and couldn't take a shirt off kind of stuff. And so, I was getting pretty agitated.
So, I get the bike to where it's not shit falling off of it. And then so I was like, well, I'm going to ride it down to that flat spot there in the driveway there. And then so I did, and nothing was obvious. Nothing was wrong with the bike other than the cosmetics. I was like, it was getting more and more, kind of like this is kind of cool, And then so we get down to this little flat spot, and I'm kind of looking, and I keep telling him I'm just trying to see what I can see,
It's pissing me off.
And
I was like, I know you're not. There's an ulterior motive. This is stupid, dude. Yeah. We'll see what we can see when he gets home.
So then, he was just like, that's what he was just like, stop.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing? He goes, it makes no sense for you to ride this home.
He's like, tape this up. And I was like, look, I'm not fucking doing this anymore.
Yeah.
This is getting retarded.
I said, I want to finish the Hoka Hey. Mm-hmm. And then so he was like, oh,
and
that makes sense.
He said that. I paused and I was like, I got this hot flash. I was like, all right. What the fuck are we standing around for? I mean, you got to get on the road. This makes a lot more sense for sure.
Yeah, but how'd that work with the hotel situation?
So I made sure the bike was rideable, So I just like dump all this shit. I just, because I can't lift the bike up. So get rid of all this stuff. I was like, I'm gonna haul ass up to about 80 just to see if there's, I'm missing something, Mm-hmm. And then so I hauled ass down the road and back, and I was like, she runs, man. And then so I was like, here, get this handled. I'm going to call Hoka Hey and find out where I stand. Mm-hmm. And so,
as far as legalities go, right? Rules and all that shit.
Well, yeah, I did disqualification. I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
So Beth runs the Hoka Hey, and she was traveling when I made the call, and I talked to the second person in charge, and I forget his name, but I think his name is Steve. And then so I'm like, this is my situation. Oh, before I get there though, Beth had called me. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, I was staying off social media. I didn't want to talk to anybody because all the stuff. And then so when I was at the hotel, Beth called me. And so she knew my situation. And then she was like, don't worry about it. 2026 is around the corner. At least you can heal. I'm glad that you're okay. So they had 8 deaths and 9 events. So it's kind of like she was really happy that,
you're alive.
We're talking,
Right. Yeah.
You're not 9.
Right. Exactly. And so,
because there was a number of wrecks already this year by that time that you had wrecked.
Yeah, there was a lot. Yeah. A lot of people didn't do so well through the hurricane.
Yeah.
Even the Keys. Mm-hmm. And so, so I called after the bike. I could tell that the bike could run and that I could use a clutch kind of enough, I was like, I think I can carry on,
Yeah.
And then so I called and I was talking to, I think it was Steve, and I said, hey, look, I don't know what the protocol here is. This is what has happened. This is where I'm at. And he didn't really know how to answer me.
Yeah.
And I said, I guess really this is what I want to know. if I continue, is there any reason why y'all would not give me the directions when I get to the checkpoint? That's what I really want to know.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm not really interested in being a certified finisher or an elite finisher or anything like that. I just want to finish the ride.
Yeah.
And that was my only real goal. But I didn't know, I'd never been to one of their checkpoints. I didn't know if it was by name or I didn't know anything. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, I'm not going to carry on just to get turned away, you know, at whatever checkpoint.
Yeah.
How many checkpoints are there? Is it one every day?
There's 3 of them.
Okay.
And then, so they're different mileages apart. And then, so the first one was at Pig Trail Harley. The second one was at Flaming Gorge Harley in Wyoming. And then Missoula, real close to it's Montana. Yeah. I forget the name of that one, but there's another Harley. And they were closed but whenever I went through there. But anyway, so, the first set of directions was 6 pages. The second set of directions was like 3. And then the last set of directions from the last checkpoint was a page front and back, and then but that 1 page of front and back directions was like 4,000 miles, it's like 300 miles, turn left. I'm like, oh shit, 400 miles, turn right. Oh my God. So anyways, I didn't think that I was going to be a finisher. I wasn't, 100% worried about it. I just wanted to be able to finish the ride. Yeah. And so that's still in limbo. And so they have been known to kind of have extenuating circumstances change, like they kind of have their own way of allowing some things to go and some things not to go, And so I didn't ask and they didn't tell. You know what I mean? So, but when I crossed the finish line, they had me sign the book, official finisher, and then so Riot was telling me that they wouldn't have asked you to sign the book because there was people that finished and they didn't have them sign the book because that they knew that they weren't going to give them finisher status. And so I don't know if it goes into I don't know if it goes into review or whatever. So.
I mean, I guess if you're going to be like just straight across the board, then it's like, look, no hotels, no matter what, right?
Yeah.
But maybe the sense of the bike set at like an impound yard or something.
Yeah, I mean, like I would have slept. My thing was I just thought it's not about, for me, it wasn't about sleeping outside. It was just like, well, this is the end of my journey here. And so it's like,
Yeah, at that point, you didn't know the bike was usable or if you were going to be able to keep going. Yeah.
So it was like suffering for fun,
Right.
Like no reason to be camping. Yeah.
Well, and then they were more, the guy Steve was more concerned with me being in the hospital for so long. And he was like, well, did you get a room? Were you in a room in the hospital? I was like, ironically, no, they were so overcrowded. I was like, I was on the damn gurney in the hallway the whole time. And then like they wheeled me in to do scans, x-rays and stuff like that. And they wheeled me back out in the hallway. And I'm like, so, and then it was kind of sketchy. Like I didn't want to sleep there. You know what I mean? I was just like, there's so much shit happening, It's like, I think I might have, drifted off a couple of times, but it wasn't like, I got this great night's sleep at the hospital, So, and I'm completely cool with whatever happens, you know what I mean? But they're going through, the way I understand it, now that it's all said and done, the last rider finished across at the end of August or so. They go back and they look at everybody's route, and then they make sure that these people, they see how close to the route they stayed or whatever, and then they go from there. So I don't know really what happens from here.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, it's like a personal thing to do it.
Yeah. For me, it was definitely that. You know what I mean?
And that was the thing. I mean, like, even if they don't finish you, whatever, you still finished for you. And that was the thing. Whenever
whenever I left the impound or the record, that was the thing for me. I was just like, I got to get, I want to do this for me.
Give a shit about like a certificate. Yeah.
I mean, I'd be honored. So like the way that it's supposed to work is like you get if you finish the ride, you have the privilege to buy the patches.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? And then so if I was given that privilege, I would definitely do it. I'm not. I don't know that I would. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know, but I would definitely.
They're pretty
buy
loud.
Those. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're definitely loud.
Yeah.
It's definitely like, hey, look what I did.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
I mean, I would definitely buy them. I don't know that. I don't know that I want to wear a cut though.
Yeah, I don't like wearing cuts personally.
Bullshit. A couple people get messed up with it every once in a while. Clubs see it and they don't
What's
know
this?
It. Yeah.
What set you claiming?
You get permission to wear that?
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
Well,
No way.
and then come to find out, a lot of that is, like, this has gone on for so long now. Most clubs know what that's about. You know what I mean? It's the younger guys in the club that's like, I've only heard of a couple people that have had to take their cut off, and it was only just because it was just like, I'm not dealing with you.
Yeah.
I'm rolling through here, man. If this is gonna make you happy, whatever.
Yeah.
Because we're not a club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't take this off. Yeah.
So other than like that one spill, which is a pretty big one, like did everything else go pretty smooth throughout the rest of the way, or did you have any other problems with the wreck? Causing issues?
Yeah, it was painful as shit, man. It hurt. It was. I got back on the road. When I got back on the road, it was halfway through the first. It was like 2:00 or so by the time I got back on the road riding, or 1:00 or somewhere in there. And I only got about 600 miles on that day, which still wasn't bad considering. And then it was middle of the night and I got off route and I was just like, I'm tired. I'm going to deal with this when I wake up, So I slept at a post office, and then it was my first night sleeping after the wreck outside, right? So I was like, I can't. I sleep on my back. I snore real bad, so I don't get any sleep, any rest. And so I try to sleep on my side, and it's I couldn't sleep on this side, and then I couldn't I was like a turtle on its back. I'm just I couldn't get comfortable. I basically spent 3 hours moaning. I was like, I got to get on the road, so I'm not going to get any sleep at this point. Yeah. Get on the road, and my next stop is my first checkpoint is Big Trail Harley, and so I've rode through Arkansas, a lot of places, a lot of pre-riding out there, but I'm coming from the east. And so I came into a section of Arkansas I'd never been before. It was just awesome riding. It was beautiful. And it was a weekday, and the sun was coming up, and there was no traffic, and there was no wildlife, and it was just nothing in the road, and it was just. Yeah. I ride way past my skill level in curves and twisties. You know what I mean? And I love it. And so I was really getting down that morning, and it was just, it was a little painful, but it was very manageable because it was just awesome riding,
You get like that flow state with certain roads.
Yes, absolutely.
And you just feel it, and it's
you know
just
what the road's going to do, Yeah. And so I just had a really awesome morning of that kind of riding. And so I come wheeling into Pig Trail Harley, and, this is my first checkpoint. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to do. I see some other Hoka Hey guys that are parked by service department, so I go swinging in over there. It's weird, the things that you just take for granted that like all these other guys are just like, well, yeah, that's what you do, and I'm just like, well, fuck, I had no idea, And so I go swinging in there, and I'm just like, I look like an idiot, you know what I mean? I'm all busted up, and I'm like getting off my bike, and I'm hopping and doing all this shit, and I can't lift my hands over my head, so I'm like trying to get my helmet off and all this shit, and so.
Help me.
Yeah.
So I get, I'm kind of getting situated or whatever. And then I hear somebody yell, "Yo, Iceman, come over here. You got to sign in here." And it's like, somebody's kind of took me by the hand. That was kind of cool. Cause I was like, I didn't want to spend any time there,
Yeah.
And so, a Facebook buddy of mine, I'd met a couple times in real life, Jason Bell. He had sent a nurse friend of his out there. And so, I wasn't expecting her, and so I'm signing in, and then the gal behind her service department, she goes, "Do you need anything? Is there anything we can do for you?" And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Y'all got any bandages and any kind of ointment or anything like that?" I said, I need to get this thing taped up, And so she's like, yeah. And then so about that time, this gal comes walking up to me, and she says, "Are you Iceman?" And she goes, "You look like you're Iceman." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "What's up?" And she goes, "Jason Bell sent me." She goes, "I'm a nurse, and he said that you could probably use some taping up, so I'm here to help you if you need it." And I was just like, "Oh, yes. I got this thing on my shoulder. I can't really reach it if I could reach it, And so so we get over to this little area in the service department, and it was me and her and another dude, and they're trying, helping me get out of my gear, and my shirt's matted to that thing, and it's
peel it off.
Yeah, so they're trying to, and I was just like, just do it, and they didn't want to, and I'm holding on to the counter. I was like, just pull that damn thing off, And then so another buddy of mine, Mile Monster, he was there. He was riding an Indian chieftain, and or not a chieftain.
Yeah, I don't know. You're talking about
Mooney, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what you're at.
It's like a road glide, but
Challenger?
No.
His is
Did I
like a
say
road king.
glide? Road King, I mean.
Yeah.
Road King, like a Indian Road King, whatever that would be.
Who cares? It's
Yeah,
It's an Indian, air-cooled Indian.
So he was having a bad go,
Yeah.
and then so he comes around and he sees me going through, like them pulling all this shit off and bandaging me up and everything like that, and I was like, hey man, what's up? And he was like kind of looking at me and he was like, man, I'm out. I was like, what do you mean you're out? Did you pop 100 or something? What's going on? And like, what's going on? What do you mean you're out? He's like, well, this and that, and this happened and that happened, and he goes, and they're not going to let me into Canada anyway. I was like, but why are you out? What are you talking about? And he's like, well, I just told Beth that I'm like, but I don't know that I can quit. He says, you look like you're having it a lot worse than I am.
Yeah.
So he was like, he was just in his head, it was just a bad moment for him,
Yeah.
And then so I was like, if they're not going to let you into Canada, man, you knew that whenever you signed up, I was like, just get as far as you can, I mean, if this is the end of your road, it's the end of your road. It's no big deal. It's supposed to be for you, man.
Yeah.
And so, but he did finish. That was cool. I was there when he crossed the line.
What was his holdup? I was telling him about the DWI thing with Canada. They won't let you in.
So he has the one.
Oh,
and then
how did he get around that?
They didn't give him any grief. And
I've heard so many. It's like folklore at this point, right?
Yeah.
It's like you hear one person like, "Oh, well, I just go in at a checkpoint that's not a main one, and they just wave you on in." But it's like I'm not gonna hinge this whole trip going into Canada on a maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, and so he got in, and when we were in Homer, he's like, "Man, I hope they let me back," because he did say it was kind of weird, it was the way that it was or whatever when he got in. It wasn't as cut and dry as it was for a lot of people, but whatever. It worked both ways for him.
Yeah, because I was telling him last night that like I've heard that if like I got mine in 2016, so I'm almost 10 years past since I got it. I've heard that you have to wait till 10 years after you get it, 10 years after you're off probation, or if it's like 2018, I heard that like you're indefinitely not allowed to come in if you got a DWI after 2018. I've heard that you can apply. There's lawyers. There's all these things. If you type it in, like there's people like lawyers there that'll help you get stuff so you can come in.
Sure.
But it's more on like work visa type shit than anything. Yeah. It's just such a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I haven't heard a straight answer yet, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and like Riot wasn't even sure if he could go in, and it wasn't even DWI stuff. It's just like they just
he's got plenty of other shit. Well, he was in a club for a long time, and so like. They have those kind of records, or they have. So, and then
he showed up with weapons.
A friend of ours, Wrong Way, he has a FFL. He's a fully automatic license. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so every border that he crosses, they're like, pull in over here. Yeah. Like they give that dude. Yeah. And he's so laid back about it. He's like, I'm not carrying nothing. This and that. But anyways, you never know. It's like, and I'm the same way. I was like, But I mean, my shit's pretty tight, so I was like, I can make it through. And if I can't, then I can't, whatever.
Yeah.
But
just ask it how much you want, man.
Yeah.
What's this going to take? Yeah.
What's this going to take? How are we
that works at the other border, not this one.
Yeah, you're too far north for it to work up here.
Yeah. So isn't like the say the depth of like America, like north to south, isn't it pretty much how Canada is before like that kind of distance before you get to like going into, the part of going into Alaska?
I would.
It's like what 2,000 or 3,000, or I think it's 1,500 miles actually.
It seemed like it was. Oh my god, dude!
You were in Canada for a minute.
Yes, just looking at a map, it seems like that. The depth of America is the same as it is in Canada, pretty close to it, right? I feel like I had 4,000 miles to go whenever I was in Montana, real close to the border. Mm-hmm. And so,
where'd y'all cross in Montana?
Yeah.
So you went up through like Calgary and all that stuff over? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and then so they cut you over I don't even know that we got to Calgary. Like they take you through the national parks of Canada also.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many. there was this banner that had all that stuff on there. How many deserts and reservations and parks and all the stuff that we went through. It was pretty crazy, but it's pretty riding. It's gorgeous riding. And I was really hard on Canada the first time I went through there.
Yeah.
I get to the Alaska side and the dude says, "You got anything to declare?" I said, "Yeah, fuck Canada." I was like, "This sucks, dude. This place sucks." He laughed and he said, gave me my passport. He says, "Welcome home."
Yeah.
But the Alcan was just a really hard ride. And for me, it was really, like I was all busted up and it hurt, but it was really a mental thing because of my gas, because like I'm just so used to having 400 miles of range if I need it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't normally, unless I'm getting from A to B, I usually,
You want to get off the bike at some point, just
to
walk around.
like I've found like I do a lot of, I don't want to say scavenger hunt stuff, but like, stopping to take pictures and stuff like that. I started doing that more after I got an aux tank. I do more stopping now because I get burnt out with stopping and then, okay, I got to get back on the bike and go get gas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
It does you become like dependent on the gas stops.
Right.
And that kind of like dictates your day.
Exactly right. So when you double that range, then it's like, I'm never worried about gas. I'm like, I go see anything I want to go see. And it's like, it's just a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And then so like you ride like that for a long period of time, and it's just like now you get in the Hoka Hey and and the gas stops weren't really an issue too much until we got into Canada.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then so like knowing what I know now, and like, even on the way back, even with my aux tank, it wasn't nowhere near as bad as it was going through there.
Yeah.
And of course I was in less pain too. But man, I tell you what, dude, my shoulder. So the first, I get to the first checkpoint. I had a great morning, I had this kind of little inspiring speech with a friend of mine, and he's going to continue on. I just felt good about myself, Get back on my bike. And then at some point we're coming into Oklahoma and it's just a straight shot 300 plus miles across Oklahoma. And it's just 300 miles of, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I pulled over one point and I was flicking off the road. I was screaming in my helmet. Oh my God, it sucked, dude.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't normally be a problem. You know what I mean? I've been on shitty roads for a long period of time before, but it was just every bump hurt.
Were you doing like that straight across, like going through like Enid and like
64? US 64 was the name of the road.
Okay.
And then and it changed a couple times. I think it was 60 and then 64. I'm not really good with names, so the road name, but I feel like it's the longest straight stretch across Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think it kind of. Did you come into Tulsa at all, or was it north or south of that? Do you remember?
It was
pretty
north. Even. Yeah. Well, I think it was about the highest north and parallel.
Yeah. So I think that road goes because I do work in this town called Woodward, Oklahoma, which is like right before you get to the Panhandle of Oklahoma, and it's like it's a east and west road, and it pretty much like you can see the other side of the state down it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man, and it's just boom, da-dum. And so like. I was kind of, gassing myself up a little bit, coming out of that morning, I was just like, I'm going to start carving it up and I'm going to have a great ride. I'm going to start, getting some good position, and then it was, like 400 or 500 miles of straightaway or with whatever it was, 300 miles of straightaway. And I'm like, everybody's a great rider when it's all straightaway, right? Yeah. Everybody wants to ride fast when it's all straight.
Yeah, but it's a mental thing though. You can zone out and wander off in your head and not pay attention to the road. And I mean, that's kind of like that feeling when you start to doze off and sleep. I'm sure you've dealt with this, like running long miles. It's like, holy shit, like, was I awake for the last 20 miles? Like, I don't even, I remember doing the motions of riding, but I don't remember.
Couldn't tell you what I just saw.
Taking it in and processing. I just remember doing it. You know what I mean?
So that happened to me on this trip. So there was several times I would say I was, I had to deal with sleep deprivation. Right?
Yeah.
And so, I've hallucinated before where I've seen shit because I've been sleep deprived, on a motorcycle. And I'm like, okay, I need, and even it happened to me on this time, I remember passing this moose crossing and then, I was seeing his legs walk, and I laughed because, I know why I'm seeing that. I need to get off the damn bike. You know what I mean? And it's just like, that's whatever, right?
Well, at the rider meeting in the beginning, it was crazy because, they were saying, they were like, hey, riders, if y'all start to hallucinate, that's your time to get off the road. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is
Yeah.
the real
It's
deal.
a common,
Like,
it's a
these guys
common
are-
thing, right?
Yeah, you know, and I'm like, and what's ironic to me though is like, you guys want to talk safety. That's way more dangerous than speeding. You know what I mean? But time for conversation for another day. But so I've never been so disoriented and confused from sleep deprivation as I was on this ride. I did a stretch. I did about 30-ish hours straight with no sleep. And I'd actually been practicing that. You know, it sounds stupid to say it like that, but like I've got a 36-hour ride in me at just about any given time. I can do 36 hours safely.
Yeah.
Mostly safely. And so it was kind of like I was kind of happy going into this ride knowing that I had that in my arsenal. You know what I mean? I'm just like, this would be cool to pull this out sometime.
What's like 36 hours is usually, you can associate that to what, like 2,000 miles ish?
Yeah, a little better. Yeah.
A little better than that? Yeah.
So, but
all in the middle of the night, or a lot of it was in the middle of the night. Past a ton of riders doing that.
What happened was I didn't intend for it to happen. It just did, right? And so what happened was feeling good. Everything was, you know, I was kind of zoned in. It was the middle of the night, and I was going through the Badlands, and I did all the Badlands at night, and then actually before we got to the Badlands, I'd met some other riders. So normally, whenever I see somebody, this is kind of like just the courteous thing to do, not just with everyday life, but like in the Hoka Hey, you know, you see somebody pulled over, you give them a thumbs up and say, are you okay? They usually give you one back and you just carry on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then so like there was a couple times where I didn't get that, so I just pull in and say, hey, you good? You know. And so one of those times, Greg Oliver, he was there with another guy. I don't remember his name. They were looking at a map. And they were trying to figure some stuff out. And I was like, you guys good? And he's like, yeah. I was like, all right, cool, you know. So I got back on the road and then I turned left and wherever I was at. This is right before I got into the Badlands. And then so like, you know, it's like a left and a right. And there were pretty long stretches. And then so I come to find out later, Greg and this guy, the other guy says, hey, he goes, we got to, you know, we just follow Iceman, see how far we can, you know, keep up with them, you know. So they got on their bike and they never caught me. I didn't know they were trying to catch me, but you know,
and they never saw his taillights.
Yeah, they're like, dude, just went through here. Like we packed everything up, got on our bike, and never saw you.
Yeah,
it was pretty funny.
Greg said he saw your taillights and he started putting his helmet on. And by the time he was on the road, he's like, I couldn't get him.
So I made it through the Badlands, and I was gonna you know find someplace to sleep then, you know, but I was just like everything felt good, you know, and then so like I went from the Badlands. And then I was like, oh, wow, check this out. I'm in Deadwood. Like, wow, that's cool. You know, I was like, I've been to Deadwood a few times, but I don't remember ever coming this way. And it was in the middle of the night, so I couldn't, it was raining a little bit, you know, so I was like, nothing really seems familiar. And then I got turned around real bad in Deadwood, as little as that town is. But I got turned around and ended up in Sturgis, and you weren't supposed to go to Sturgis.
Oh, you're probably supposed to go to Spearfish or something.
Yeah, but you were supposed to, there's two ways you can get to Spearfish, and one is kind of a straight way, and one is a curve up 14. And so that's the way you're supposed to go. And so, like, I kept going back to, I think it wasn't Main Street, it's a like
Lozelle.
like the View or something. Vista, I think, is the name of the road. It's not even a mile long road. It's so short, but it was turn left. Well, I kept doing that, but I was turning left coming from Sturgis, so I was actually turning right, and so I kept just doing circles, you know. And so finally, I was like, I need help, you know. So I pulled the wrong way, and I asked one of the locals. At this time, I got there. It was like 4 a.m. And then by the time I actually got help, it was like 6 a.m. because I just kept going back and forth from Sturgis to Deadwood because the directions didn't make sense, you know. So, anyways, so then once the sun came out, I was like, well, I'm going to keep riding, you know. And so then this was part of that 30-hour ride. So I ended up, I don't remember where the hell I was at, but I remember calling in. I was on Hops. They were doing like live streams. And then so that morning, at this point, maybe that was another time, because that deal with Hop was I was already in Montana.
Yeah, this dude was in rough shape. Every single picture I saw of him, pictures would come out like he'd be passing somebody and grab a picture of him real quick. Like he had his visor up and he just hunched over his bike. He looked terrible. Every picture, he looked worse
sucked,
and worse.
man. It sucked.
These giant
His
black
like,
rings and shit. And his body's all jacked up too.
I couldn't just chill, you know. It was just like I had to be hunched in some kind of way or whatever, and like half my windshield was busted off, so it was like
trying to catch the wind.
Yeah, you know, it was like, you know, because I like to ride with my visor up a lot, and then so I'm just like, you know, I'm over here like this, trying not to get shit in my eyes, you know. And it was tough, and then you're like, you know, my hands, I could only lean a certain kind of way. That was a big problem after, you know, post wreck was I couldn't ride as aggressive as I wanted to. Because it was like I was finding that, you know, I couldn't downshift into the corners. I couldn't shift out of the corners, right? I couldn't lean into them, you know, because my shoulder was jacked. And so like the first few days, I was like, I had to change the way I ride. I couldn't do U-turns because the hurt so bad. Yeah. And, you know, I blow roads all the time and I'm like, oh, just zip it around. You know, you see a car coming and I know that I'm going to be able to whip this around and stay in front of you. You know what I mean? I almost wiped out like twice, 2 or 3 times right after my wreck doing U-turns. And I'm just like, okay, I have to, once I see that I blew a road, I've got to find some place that I can turn around. You know what I mean? That was very hard for me to get used to, you know what I mean? It's just like I had to learn a lot of stuff over again. But back to the sleep deprivation thing, there was a stretch when I was coming into, I was in Montana. I was coming into Montana, and then I talked with Hopper early in the morning. I was on their show, and all the rain had ruined the speakers on my phone, so I couldn't hear anything, you know. And then so like I was trying to be on their show for this little bit of time, and it was just kind of weird, and you know whatever. And I was tired, but I didn't feel like I was exhausted, you know. And so like I get back on the bike, and it's raining, and then like several times I was like I had woke up and I was in incoming traffic and it seemed like it was always an 18-wheeler, you know, and it's like they're flashing their lights and honking their horn, and I'm like, this is bad, you know. I'm like, I have got to get off this bike, you know. And so there was this one time where you know, I was letting my feet hang off, you know, that was a real pain in it. That sucked not having highway pegs for my left side. You know, I'm kind of a tall guy, so I was like, I usually utilize those a lot. So I didn't have that, so I'm just like doing whatever I can to get some kind of movement or different positions while I was riding.
Road yoga?
Some motorcycle yoga. And so I let my feet dangle, and then I'll lean forward a little bit, you know, and like I'd fallen asleep like that. And then so like I was waking up and I seen this 18-wheeler with his lights. He's flashing his lights. He's blowing his horn, and it's just a 2-lane road. And it's just ditch. There's nowhere for him to like move or go, you know. So like he's slowing down, but it's not going to happen, you know. Yeah. And then so like I seen this, and it's, you know, like scared me. So like I tried to stand up, and so like I put my feet down. I'm doing 80, you know, and then so like I hit the front of my. It's like I fell over on my bike, you know, and I just leaned this way, you know what I mean, and everybody's honking at me and shit. I'm like, I've got to get off this son of a bitch, you know. But from that morning until I ended up in Rygate, which was around middle of the day, and I was just so confused. Yeah, like you were saying earlier about not taking it in. The only thing that I remember from those 2 points is waking up to 18-wheelers. Yeah. That was it. Everything else, I don't remember. I don't remember how I got there. And then so it threw me off because I thought I was way off course. And I was like, because there were some turns that I had to make along that. And I don't remember them, you know. And then so I was upset, dude. I pulled into Rygate. There's this, it's this little 1-horse town. They got this no cell service. It's just a real small little place, you know. And then so I pulled in, and a little trick for the Hoka Hey is like whenever you pull in to sleep or get off your bike or whatever, you want to point your bike in the direction that you were going, you know. So like you know that when you get on your bike, that's where you're supposed to. You don't have to think about it. You just get on it and go. So I pulled in, and I kind of faced my bike in this direction that I'm supposed to be going, and I pulled into this gravel parking lot, and like an all in one motion, I put the kickstand down, and I get off my bike, and I just end up on my back in the gravel, and just I'm out. I'm just asleep. And so there was apparently there were some people worried about me. I had woke up to a sheriff tapping me on my foot. He's like, "Hey, buddy, everything all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, everything's great. What's up?" You know, it's like, "Well, you know, you're it's really hot out here. It was like 85. You know, I'm like, dude, I'm from Texas.
Settle down.
And it's like, it's really hot out here, and you're in, full gear, and you're just in the middle, just laying in the sun. It's like, maybe you want to get in the shade. What's this?
Freaking the people out.
Yeah. And so there was a few people that had called, I guess. Anyways, so
that was the most concerning call I got from you. Like that was the most concerned I was for you.
That was the most fucked up I was too.
Because he was like, I don't remember anything. He did that 30-hour stretch, 2,000 miles. And he didn't remember any of it. And he was telling me about it. And then he tells me about the 18 wheels and stuff like that. I'm like, fuck, dude. Like,
well, and then so I thought I was way off course, and I didn't even know where I got off course.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't even know where to go. You know what I mean? I can just say screw it and continue on and hope that I find my way or whatever, But I was just like, I was just mentally done, and upset and pissed off and all the things and in pain. And then so I walk into this little place, and I'm like, I look like a freaking alien. I'm sure, I'm in this big heavy suit, my riding suit, my climb gear and everything. And I'm just like, and I go up to the bar, and I'm just like feeling the grain of the wood, and chick's like, there's something I can help you with, It's like,
you from around here?
And, holy shit. And she's like, and then so I said, y'all have pie? And she's like, yeah, we got pie. I was like, do you have cherry pie? She's like, yeah. And I said,
you got to pay for it.
I said, do you have ice cream? She goes, yeah, we can get you some ice cream. I said, that's what I want. She goes, you want any other food? I said, yeah, just give me the special, but make sure I want the pie first, And it's so I got this big, huge thing of water and this big fucking pie, dude. It was, and then they brought out the special was this chicken fried. So I'm like, I got this huge meal in front of me, which is the first meal I've had since I've started this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This isn't a typical thing. You don't sit down to have meals when you're doing the Hoka Hey.
Yeah. Plus, if you have a big one, it might put you on your ass.
Yeah. And then so I'm just so upset with myself, and I'm just like trying to figure out what my next move's going to be. I'm like, I'm just taking my time eating this big fat meal.
Yeah.
And then I don't have any service inside it's a metal building. And so, I must have spent 30, 45 minutes there inside eating, plus the 30-minute nap I had outside. And so I'm there an hour and 15 minutes or whatever it is. And then so I'm just like, well, what I learned on day one that works for me is when the directions stop making sense, go backwards until they start making sense, and then you usually find where you blew it, where, it's like, and for me, most of the time it was like a road was you turn right to stay on a road, something like that, Okay. And then so when you go backwards, it's like, oh, well, I'm supposed to be on that road. It just makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And then so I'm like, well, I guess I'll do that, and hopefully me going backwards will jog something, and I'll be able to see something, because I couldn't really see nothing on my atlas, and so as I'm walking back to my bike, this one texts me and he goes, "You're killing it." And I was like, "No, man, I blew it. I blew it bad."
Yeah. I texted him. I was like, "You're killing it." Yeah. He's like, "I think I blew it."
Yeah. What's going on? What are you talking about? Yeah. And then so I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, what do you mean?"
Yeah.
And then so I'm like, I'm like, well, maybe I didn't, I'm like, I was just so confused.
Yeah.
I was just so confused. I've never been so disoriented like that before from just not having enough sleep. Mm-hmm. And so,
I was like, you hit the 100-mile, like what? Like, I mean, I imagine because you did a lot of miles, But
so about the time that I'm getting close to my bike, I see like a pack of Hoka Hey guys going in the direction that I had come from, and I'm like, oh, those guys blew their route. I'm like, I'm maybe I am on the right route.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey man, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, dude, you're like in 18th place or something. I was like, no shit. So I was like, I get back on my bike and I'm just like back to 95 miles an hour trying to figure it out on the fly. I'm like, all right, well, we'll just go with that,
Yeah.
So, but that was the most, like I said, that was the most out of it that I've ever been from not having enough sleep. It was so weird.
Yeah.
It's nothing I've ever experienced before.
It was funny too. On the way to Missoula, I think it was. You kept asking me who's in front. No, it was like I guess it was a couple days after your wreck. But you were asking like who's in front of me,
Yeah,
You
I
know?
want to pass somebody. I
Yeah.
kept saying, I was like,
Yeah, he's like,
that's kind of like I
Yeah.
get a kick out of that.
he's like, where's the next mile
I want
monster?
to pass
That's-
somebody.
That's our group of people. We had like 36 mile monsters or something like that.
something
you
like
know?
that.
And so he's like, who's the next mile monster? I'm like, you got like 3 people to pass, and you hit Greg Oliver or whoever it was. You know, he'd be like, all right, cool. And then I get a text from Greg Oliver or whoever it was, like, dude, your dad fucking flew past me. Like, yeah, he was planning on it.
Yeah.
So all in all, how many days did it take you to complete the Hoka Hey?
So I crossed on the 14th.
Day 13, I believe, because you were there the night before the party.
Yes, that makes sense.
So
So
It's
the
not
party
bad
was the 17th.
with a wreck in between it.
Yeah, well, and then I blew. So, rookie, not a really rookie mistake. So my tire jacked me up in Canada,
Okay.
Yeah,
and so I lost another day there. You know,
because they had something about like a Yamaha dealership.
and so they didn't have the tire in stock, and just luck would have it they had one showing up the next day that would fit my bike, and they actually would. They were like legit mechanics. They're not just part swappers, you know.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of cool because that it was like the Canadian was like, hey, do you got any brakes on you? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, brake pads. You carrying any brake pads? And I'm like, why would I be carrying brake pads, dude?
Or parts for that matter. The bike's brand new.
Well, so come to find out, a lot of the people that ride out there,
Yeah.
they ride around with spare tires on their bike.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing. You know what I mean? I'm like, so he's looking at me like I'm an idiot. Like, you're all the way out here and you don't have brakes on you don't have a spare pair of brakes. I was like, dude, if you notice, I don't have a spare nothing. I don't even have change of clothes.
Yeah. Like a lot of the adventure rider dudes will keep all the extra shit on their bikes,
Yeah.
but they're kind of on and off civilization.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
and
So-
used to that,
And they'll probably have spoons and all that to
Yeah.
do that shit themselves.
Well, and then so like I'd actually met a guy at Yamaha. They have a little staging area and a little area like a stand. So like these guys would bring their bikes up there, take their own wheels and tires off, and then take the tires off. They got spoons and all that, and then
Yeah.
they would just do part swaps there. And so like that was kind of cool. That was a really cool spot. Yeah, Yukon Yamaha, they helped me out quite a bit.
Well, you also got to think that they might not have those parts available all the time. Too.
Yeah.
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 Especially like Harley, they don't have a lot.
Oh
of
yeah, they don't have any Harley parts. Yeah.
So-
You
So-
can see a Harley dealership and it's like, hell yeah. And you walk in, it's just a kiosk for shirts.
Shirts.
Yeah. Oh,
It's like
yeah.
shirt dealer.
That's just the
You got
worst.
any oil at least?
Yeah.
Shit. Man.
Well,
we got fingerless gloves.
Yeah.
I was kind of like loosely watching the thing because I follow both of you guys, and then I was kind of like thought it was cool and special seeing him fly to the
Yeah.
end to see you kind of
Yeah.
complete because I didn't catch the wreck part until you looked pretty banged up in that final post or whatever
Yeah,
when it was
dude.
all said and done. But that's just something that I thought was pretty cool to be able to
Shit,
see
yeah,
that.
man. He's my best friend, you
Yeah.
know, and I'm really proud as a father of the relationship that we have, you know.
Yeah. Is the other kid good or is he kind of like the?
Yeah, he's my stepson.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, so there it is.
There's some built-in rift there, he's a good kid. He's
You're not my real dad.
yeah, it was.
We tried to get him into Harleys.
He was definitely really tough. It was a really tough challenge whenever we was growing up. Whenever he was growing up, it's like because there was a lot of that, But yeah, so it was a complete surprise. I wasn't expecting him to be there at all.
Yeah.
The Alaska thing was fun. He was like, "Hey, I'm pulling into this spot with no GPS," because he was like right about to hit that wall where nobody
The
could see him.
wormhole, yeah.
the wormhole, And he was like, "I'm pulling to this spot, and look, if you don't get a text from me in 2 hours, send a tow truck my way." I was boarding a fucking plane when he texted me that.
Yeah.
I was like, I can have a friend text you. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
be shooting houses or something like
And
that.
I was just kind of like, whatever.
like I already
I don't
knew.
ask you for much.
Yeah,
dude.
I know.
Really?
I already knew he was thinking that shit.
I was like, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So I text my brother. I was like, hey, dude, look, this is where I'm at. And then so like I have a Garmin InReach Mini,
Yeah.
and then so it polls, but it polls every 20 minutes.
What's that? An inReach minute?
It's a GPS unit.
Okay.
And then so so like I have Spot Walla, which is it's a whole different thing outside of the Hoka Hey.
Yeah.
And then so like I sent that link to my brother, and I was like, look, if you don't hear from me in whatever it was, a couple hours, 2-3 hours, send a tow truck to the last thing that thing pings.
Yeah.
Because there's only one road that you can be on. It's not like I went adventuring.
Yeah.
And so
What's the wildlife like once you get up there in the middle of nowhere? Did you see any like roadside bears?
I
and
saw
shit
a
like-
bear. I saw a black bear, and I saw quite a bit of moose and a lot of buffalo, man. Whole lot. Buffalo are like the fucking cats of the big animal world. You know, cats are just like, they're just arrogant little, you know, I mean, cats are cool, but they're also just like, they definitely got their own personality. You know what I mean? They're just very moody, right? And it's just like, you want to pet me? You come over here and pet me. Yeah. You know, that's how bison are. Buffalo, they're just like, yeah, we're in the middle of the road. Yeah. So what? You know,
what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We know you can't do nothing about it.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like getting off the road right now.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it's like they just all congregate around a spot. Yeah. And, you know, it's like you got millions of acres everywhere to go do buffalo shit. Why do you want to do it here on, you know, the only road that goes through here? Yeah. You know?
Dude, they'll get close to you too. Like, especially on a bike, they'll get close to you, like they're checking you. Like, you know, I'll fuck you up, right?
Dude, that's kind of unnerving too, man. It's just like, you know, because you see all the damn people petting damn things, and you know, see them getting their pants ripped off and thrown through the air. You know what I mean? It's like, that's legit. I mean, they're huge animals, you know, and they have horns.
How big is the moose? Like, I haven't seen one in person yet.
So I never got a close up. I would say I got within 40 yards or so, right?
Okay.
And the first time that I seen him, it was like kind of dusk, and that's the other thing too. Is like in Alaska, it's like at 10 o'clock, it's like bright.
Yeah.
It's like doesn't even look like it's going to be dark soon. You know what I mean? At 10 o'clock at night. And then so like as the sun's going down, it's like it takes forever to go away. You know what I mean? It's like it's steadily always going down, right? But anyways, so the first time I seen moose, it was a mom and a baby, and the baby was like, it seemed like the size of a school bus. I mean, it was just like, you know, or like a short bus or whatever. But like, I seen them crossing the road. I seen one cross the road, and I was like, oh man, what is that? You know, I never seen one before either. You know, and then I seen the baby come across, and I was like, holy shit, those are moose. You know, and it's like they're so like, it looks like they're slow, but they're covering so much ground because they just got, you know, huge long legs. You know, it's just like, you know, it takes a minute to move that, but they just, you know, it was like a 15-yard step, you know? It's like, it's like, holy shit, you know? And so I'd seen a couple, I think the closest I'd ever got was probably around 30 yards, and it was usually them crossing the road. And then so, and then this black bear, the bear was cool. Dare I say even cute. It was early morning, and I'd passed through 3 stretches of buffalo just being assholes on the road. And I was on my way back from Canada at this point, so I had an ox tank and everything. So as I'm coming through the Yukon, the ditch is a lot lower than the road. And then so I look up ahead a little bit, and I'm like, that's weird. I ain't seen a buffalo yet by itself. You know, I was like, that seems, you know, they get closer, I'm like, oh shit, that's a bear. You know, it's the first bear that I'd seen actually on the whole trip. So like I'm slowing down, and then like he's on all fours, and he's, you know, and then so like I'm slowing down, and I'm like, my hands are all jacked up, and I can't take pictures real well, you know. So but I was gonna try. So like I turned around, and I was coming back the other way. Nobody's on the road. I come back the other way, and he's standing up on his back legs, and he's like, and then whenever I seen him just moving his head, I was like, this is probably not a good idea.
Yeah,
because I'm still like right here, you know. But luckily, he was not like a bison. He was just like, I don't know what this human's doing, but I ain't going to hang around. So by the time I managed to get my phone out and the damn camera cleaned off and my gimp hands, he was already had his ass back in the brush.
Yeah. I was riding on my little trip this summer, and I was going through parts of PA, and I did all back roads through PA. And, you know, you're kind of cruising these towns. I'm just like on a swivel, like checking out all the scenery and stuff. And then I saw like maybe from here to the road out front, like I thought it was a big black dog, but it had a brown snout. And I'm like, that's a weirdly shaped, long-legged dog, because it was on all fours. Like, oh shit, that's a bear. Oh, so it wasn't as close up as like I had seen before, like going through Yellowstone. And I saw one cross the road right in front of us with some cubs. And on what's the one road everybody does in like North Carolina? The slow, it's like super slow, but it's
North Carolina.
Goes north. Shit. The Parkway, Blue Ridge Parkway.
Oh, Blue Ridge Parkway.
Shit.
We we both know that road. Yeah.
We actually literally both just went there. Yeah.
We were coming into that little Switzerland town that's kind of like just north of Asheville and stuff, and just ran across the road. Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
we got pulled over at Blue Ridge Parkway, like 30 seconds into it. We didn't even start. Was that it? Right? Blue Ridge?
Yeah. So well, Blue Ridge runs to the left and something else runs to the right where we pulled into.
Skyrahola,
Skyway or some shit.
Yeah. So that's where we got pulled over.
That's right. Yeah.
And then we went up and we did that and we came back and then we went down Blue Ridge.
Yeah.
And that's where Chad lost his
That's right. The bearing.
yeah, his bearings. But yeah, that was the wildlife was pretty cool. It was have you ever been to Alaska?
Fuck no, I can't even get out of.
Well, I don't know, maybe if you flew out there or something. But so like the blues and then the reds. The reds are more pink, and it's just like everything just seems to have kind of like a blue tint to it. You know, it's
The clouds are really unique out there too.
I mean, it's
cloud
awesome.
formations.
I mean, it's really cool. You know, I wish I was in a position to have better appreciated. You know, but I was just like across the finish line, and I was just like, man, I'm just ready to go home.
One of the first podcasts I did, like right when I started this thing back in the day, I had a guy on that was he grew up around here. I painted a bike for him years ago, but he had did a from here to Alaska trip. And we talked a lot about like his trip up there, but he said that there's this town you go to, and it's like a tunnel that shares a railroad track through the tunnel to the town. And then when you get to the town, there's one building that everything.
That's right. I've heard about that.
And
one.
We'll be here. We'll
it's
try
something
our-
like that. Yeah.
I think they were. I think Frankie Mountains went through it
Okay.
on the way back. And Dale and yeah.
Yeah, like the whole town's in that building though. Right?
Yeah.
Food courts. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, so I want to go, but right now I think my bucket list trip is like, and I don't even know when I'm going to be able to scratch it or even attempt it. Is all the way to Argentina, like all the way to the bottom.
Oh wow.
Okay.
So that's the one that if I could just do that before I die, then I'll be like, good.
I got
You
it. I won.
Thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the one. You know, my buddy Danger Dan just did it like a year or two ago on a Pan America, and but I've always told people like he's like your buddy that got through with the DWI. He just he blends in but stands out.
Yeah.
It's like he's just like why are you? I don't know. Like he can just get away with shit that I don't feel like normal people can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Riot's like that too.
Right.
Right. You know, that dude could talk his way in and out of anything.
Yeah. Great talker. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, like we didn't get one ticket, and we got pulled over. I don't know how many times we got pulled over.
On the go tour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
pulled over
like
a bunch.
we were
It's
passing
so funny.
people. We were like, you know,
Being dickheads.
motorcycle. Yeah, I mean, we were doing shit that was ticketable, easily ticketable.
This is
you know
when
what I
we
mean?
were taking 9-year-old Gavin around the country, right? And so Riot leads that ride normally, and he just I mean, he rides like there's not a group of 9 bikes behind him, you know. And we follow him like we're not in a group of 9 bikes. So cops don't like that, but it's so crazy because like we'll be pulled over like that time when we got pulled over on the Skyway.
Oh, that dude was pissed.
It was so pissed.
He
You
was
could see
pissed.
like steam coming out of this dude's ear, getting out of his car. And Riot already had his helmet off, giant smile like this.
Yeah.
He's like,
What's up?
officer, you know,
Yeah.
dude out of in fucking cuffs, you know?
Yeah,
And-
like the dude was like, "You don't want to tell me why you're being so dangerous or reckless or something like
Yeah.
that." And Riot's like, "Me? What are you talking about?" You know?
Yeah.
And it is just like the next thing I know, we're taking selfies with the cop and the kid. You know,
Yeah,
it's like
exchanging
Gavin's.
stickers and shit.
Yeah, they put a sticker on the. He put a sheriff sticker on the back of his helmet. You know, I'm just like,
officer, we're here for charity. We can't be bad.
yeah,
The charity thing's fun.
yeah. That's that. Yeah, that does help.
It's funny because like some of the most aggressive riders I've met have like charity rider for terminally ill children on the back of their bike or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So
It's like the I support the police sticker on the back window. They put it right there where you walk up just to be.
Shit,
yeah.
So I seen a guy who put he puts on his tour pack. He's got an adventure style bike, more of a sport bike, but a kind of adventure setup, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But on his tour pack, it has organ delivery or something like perishable, you know, like that, you know. And then so I was like, "Are you legit organ delivery guy?"
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "They all seem to think I am."
Yeah. Unless they have a
That's
warrant, they won't
pretty
find
damn
out.
slick.
Yeah.
You know? I guess that's because he's got it locked. You know,
Yeah.
it's like he's not allowed in the box.
Put a bunch
you
of
know?
dry ice in there, and then if you open it, have like a metal case. Like you don't want to see what's in there.
Yeah.
I can't open it.
Yeah.
It's a heart pumping. Let's go. We gotta get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
crazy.
man, that's pretty sick.
So overall, like taking away from the trip, like what do you think you gained like mentally out of the whole journey?
So I'm actually still unpacking quite a bit of stuff, but there's just, like where I'm at in my life. You know what I mean? So a lot of little things, like I typically don't ask people for help. I don't ask nothing from nobody. I just stay to myself, and I had to get out of all that. You know what I mean? There's just, I had to ask people for, where the hell am I and where do I go and what's, and that sounds little and insignificant, but for me, it was kind of impactful. There's an aspect of, finishing something that you started, you know what I mean? Yeah, I get to, in my position, in my point in my life, it's like I start a lot of things, you know what I mean? And I get to a spot where I don't want to deal with it anymore. Then it's like, pass it off to, an employee or my son, or whatever it may be, and it's just like, you've got to finish this, and just things like that.
Do the thing that I envisioned. Go, ready, go.
Yeah. That was like, he thought it was going to be a great idea. I was like, we had a podcast for a little while and we still kind of do, but, I like starting things, because it's fun. Everything's fun in the beginning,
Then it becomes work.
Yes. And then I'm like, man, I don't want to do work. I've got a job.
Especially a podcast. I don't know if you know that, but a podcast gets to be a bit of work.
So, and that stuff kind of sounds insignificant, but, there was a lot of personal development for me in a lot of different little areas that I think, really only mattered to me. You know what I mean? Along that kind of thinking. But the ride itself, from a technical aspect, personally, I don't think that it was very challenging in the roads that we rode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like actual physical riding.
Yeah.
I mean, the elements kind of weighed in. It's like
all those little things start adding up, and then that's where the challenge comes in. You know what I mean? It's not the riding. You know what I mean? Most of everybody that's on the Hoka Hey, they've rode.
You ever heard that things like how deep can you swim in? I'm like, I can swim in 1,000,000 feet deep, dude. Like it's the same whether it's 5 feet. How far can you like the distance is kind of the same thing. It's like yes, it's 1 mile at a time essentially, but you stack them up and see how far you can go in a day and how long you can deal with. But
and then so like I said, the pace that Riot rode, at some point, I'm sure I'm going to have that aspiration to do a Hoka Hey that way.
Yeah.
This ride was not like that for me. Like I didn't want to, there was plenty of other stuff for me to gather out of this. But I mean, that's the next level challenge. You know what I mean? Because I mean, it's, you do 1,100 miles a day, including a tire change and including an oil change, and it's like, you're lucky to get 4 hours of sleep. You know what I mean? And it's like, do that for 10 days. It doesn't sound like a lot until you're on day 10 doing it. You know, it's like, holy smokes, And then so, like I had every intention of doing 1,000 miles a day for 10 days. And I can do that, and it was all the other stuff that got in the way that makes it the challenge.
Yeah.
And so, and other people had no ambition of riding that hard. A lot of people say they want to get there by the party. That's a big thing, right? If you get there by the party, you're an elite finisher.
Which is on day 14.
So, you can take I don't want to say leisurely ride, but you can definitely, have good sleep, get your daily showers in, have your meals and stuff like that. Like for me, I was in between, riding hard and taking the challenge on. You know what I mean? Like I wanted a fair blend of those things. At some point in doing one of these challenges, I'm sure I'm going to want to go balls out. And just be crazy.
Like we were talking last night, I was like, well, he was telling me about the guy that did it on like an old.
Oh yeah, the
Hyde.
Yeah,
that dude did it on a 48 panhead suicide shift.
Jockey shift. Open
so
primary.
I mean, does like the concept of doing challenging riding, and I'm kind of alluding this because this is kind of where I'm at in my traveling on motorcycles. It's like I've already done the cross country tons of times on, baggers.
Yeah, yeah.
And so like the experience of doing it on different types of bikes that aren't as convenient
Modern.
or custom
Like
or
an
not
FSR
custom, like
recent.
that or just like the next bike I'm building to do set somewhat of a cross country is going to be a hardtail chopper. Not that I don't want to beat myself up, but it makes you ride differently.
Absolutely.
It makes you ride a different type of ride. And it, for me, I kind of, and it was a call. I wanted to call back to this because you said at the beginning of the podcast, I'm of the mind that like I've gotten to that point where I need to get there and I can like tunnel vision, see the destination and then just, go, right? Mm-hmm. But you're not taking it in. You're not experiencing it. You're not stopping for this. You're not stopping for that. You're not going down that road to see where it leads.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, focused in on the destination, right? Mm-hmm. Well, how do you balance that? Like as someone that might want to, experience that, stop and take a picture of that sunset, go check out that town and see, what the steakhouse is like and at night, you know what I mean? Like those kind of things. Like,
so if you're not doing it on the Hoka Hey, get an aux tank. For me, that was a big change for me. Because it just changed my mindset to where that's one less stop I had to make was fuel. So that's another stop I can make to flower sniff. You know what I mean? To check out the sunset or whatever it is, for me, right? That's a deep question, man. I don't know.
What about do you see yourself, one of the things I want to ask you is like, do you plan to do the Hoka Hey again?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, so you have that type of ride, right? That kind of concept. Is there any other kind of like type of riding that is similar to cross country riding that might, scratch the itch or be interesting or
as the Hoka Hey?
Well, just like different ways of doing it. Because you said, you do it with the mile monsters and
so there's definitely there's definitely of course there are different ways to get across the country, right? And then so there's different you can do some IBA certified rides. You can do just flower sniffing. It depends on, a lot of it depends on what kind of time you have available to do something like that. One thing that I have noticed that I've been trying to be okay and relaxed with was that you cannot see everything whenever you go from A to B.
Yeah.
And then so like there's just going to have to be some things that you're going to have to come back and see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm signed up for a lot of things this year. I've got the Tour of Honor, which is really cool. Alder, which is America's ultimate long distance riding. That's pretty cool because it's a lot of this is all self-paced stuff. You know what I mean? Motorcycle Grand Tour of Texas.
I feel like that's what got you started.
I would say that's fair.
The Motorcycle Grand Tour of Texas is a
it
good
gives
way to
you
get into
something to
challenge
go
riding.
see. And I think that's the big key.
Isn't that the one where they have all these things all over Texas that you kind of like go check off?
Yep.
Yeah, I think one of the guys from Houston that came up to our bike night to do some stuff in this like Grapevine,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And then checked it off.
Well, it was
So
interesting because I stopped doing it with him because I called them chore runs, and that's
Right.
what got him into like challenge riding. It was like it's not supposed to be a challenge; it's supposed to be like check out all these things in Texas.
Right.
But that's how he got into challenge riding because he's like, I want to see how many I can do in a day. Like you're missing the point, but
Yeah.
you got your fun. That's the point.
Well, yeah, that's exactly. I mean,
Well,
it's going to be different for everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like, and it's going to be different for me at some point. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So it's like, right now, I'm in between covering a lot of ground and checking off a lot of shit. You know what I mean? And the downside to that is I'm not in that moment as long as I think I should be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think at some point I will be. Once the allure of crushing miles and checking off a lot of shit kind of starts to simmer down for me, I'm sure I'm going to be more interested in, you know what? I think I'm going to set up camp here and watch this waterfall all night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's also kind of a freeing thing is being able to sleep kind of anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
like, with the Hoka Hey, you can't sleep in a motel. You're not supposed to, right? And then so, some guys get real creative, about where they're, like Hopper sleeps in cemeteries. Some of these guys, they don't.
That seems like a Hopper thing to do.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
So
He fucking told me that for this trip because I told him I was going to camp, and I was like, I don't know if there's going to be anywhere like safe in Dallas to camp. He's like, camp in a cemetery. That really fucks with cemeteries. And I was like, I'm not camping in a cemetery, dude.
You can
drive my stakes in the
everywhere
ground.
in Dallas. Everybody camps in Dallas.
Yeah.
There's bridges everywhere. You'll be safe.
So, but I mean that.
Sure, they're tense.
Yeah.
Yeah, make it
You know that's. I saw some funny shit in Austin here the other day. I was coming back from somewhere doing something, and I was on the access road getting ready to get on 35, and it was the funniest shit. I seen this dude. He had this dude and this gal were walking across the street. And he's like, he's got his hands around her. He's definitely courting her, right? And then they go walking up to this tent, and he unzips his tent, and he holds the thing back, and he's like walking her into it, and then he gets in there and zips it up, and it's like 100 degrees outside. And I'm like, but it was just hilarious, to see this, progress, anyways. But for me, a big thing for me was the freedom of being able to kind of just sleep anywhere. You know what I mean? And so there's definitely dangerous places to sleep. Like I wasn't too keen on wanting to sleep in Canada, because they got freaking polar bears in Canada. I didn't know that.
Oh.
Yeah. White bears, and I'm like, so luckily none of that was an issue. But just there's a couple places in Alaska where I was like, if I wasn't all banged up and if I had a little bit more time, I could totally just set up my little bullshit tent here and chill. I got food, or I would have food.
Yeah.
I keep those little adventures. I usually keep at least a couple meals on my bike, just because you don't know where you're going to be.
Yeah.
And I look forward to at some point in my life, I know that I'm going to enjoy that more, spend more time with, taking that in. Yeah. Right now, I'm still kind of in the, getting from A to B.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it seems like, you got to find a goal within it that kind of overpowers the goal that you're currently on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, it goes back to what you were saying about starting something and finishing it, is that being a goal-driven person, you're always like, as you're in the process of doing the thing, if you don't find other goals within that thing, you kind of lose interest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that's why, like with the podcast, I'm that way. Mm-hmm. I have to add a new layer of goal to keep myself doing this. I mean, I you gain a lot from it, from conversations, but whether it's rearranging the studio or adding video or like, can I do this video on the road? Like, you constantly add a challenge to overcome to keep you doing things. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny you bring that up about the podcast, because I think that's probably where we're at with mine right now. Is just like, I haven't, you know what I mean? I really enjoyed talking one-on-one like this.
Yeah.
And the podcast that I had set up was for entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs. You know? And I wanted to hear, their stories and how, their what problems they're going through, and, what city officials are giving them a hard, whatever it may be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, it got stagnant, and then it was just so easy for me to drop the ball and just move on.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. I mean, I'm at a turning point in this podcast in a way, if I could try to explain this well. I love motorcycling, and I have my whole life is motorcycles, from what I do for a living to, what I do on my hobbies, and my hobbies are playing into motorcycles still, you know what I mean? So the thing is that, like, I try to just go with the flow of what I'm interested in within motorcycling. So whether it's traveling on them, whether it's customizing them, the type of bikes, like I'm getting more interested in like choppers now, not because of the cool guy aspect, but because it's like a part of motorcycling I haven't dabbled in. I don't know any. It's just a black hole of things I don't understand, and I want to know it.
Yeah.
And honestly, and not to talk any shit here, but like when you start like, we've been a big proponent of performance baggers, performance motorcycles since it swept this way across the country, right? Mm-hmm. The issue that I am coming into with that is that since we were kind of around at the ground level of it, we kind of know how everything started, and we know all the players that kind of were involved in helping and grow it and doing this. And now when you talk to some people that are kind of new to it, that are kind of the big guys, they didn't give a shit about it then. They don't play. So it's now we've already got the second wave of people in that side of the industry that are coming in that really that pay no homage to the beginning.
Yeah.
They
don't know the beginning.
They don't even care. It's just like, we're here now. And it kind of, I don't know, put a sour taste
Sure.
in my mouth. Plus the other thing that happens is that the stories are the same. You know, a lot of the same stories, and it's not to like talk shit about them or their individual experiences, but you find that you're not getting much of like a new perspective.
You're not growing anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, I needed another goal, and like we were talking about, I don't know if the mics were on about Todd's book.
Yeah.
You know, that seeing him ride across the country for 6 months, which I got a wife, I got kids, I can't be gone that long, but
Yeah, see, that's the other thing is you know, like at the spot that I'm at in my life, my youngest son is 24.
Yeah.
You know, it's 25.
24 now.
I don't. Sometimes I forget too.
Wait, what? Yeah, 24. Yeah.
I got a 22-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son, and so
Yeah.
I forget my daughter's age a lot.
Yeah.
Because she's, you know.
But my point is like, you know, he's grown, self-sufficient, you know, and so like.
Dude, I graduated and this dude lost his fucking mind. Straight up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, my business is a spot where I can take, you know, I can take time off, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably a little, I probably pushed a little much this. I started riding in June, and I basically haven't stopped until here a couple weeks ago.
I think on my trip, I struggled a lot with feeling selfish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Feeling very selfish that, you know, I'm out here on my bike and, you know, I just woke up on the coast of California and I don't have to go to work today. I'm going to ride through the Avenue of the Giants.
Yeah.
And end at Crater Lake. You know what I mean? So, and then you have days like that. Well, my buddy Jaden always said it best. He goes, it's just a month of Saturdays. You know what I mean? You didn't, you know, last night was you're off work. You're going into a day of not working and you don't have to look forward to work tomorrow. So it's like, you start to feel selfish. Like I'm texting my wife every day. She's going to work. She's telling me about her day. And I'm like, well, yeah, mine.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
There was some fires. Not a big deal. Little
well,
traffic.
and it's so like me and my girlfriend we're having a real hard time. She's having a real hard time.
Yeah.
She's got 2 little kids.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and I love them, you know, but we're definitely feeling the struggle, you know what I mean? And then so it's like, you know, like you say, you know, it's like, hey, how was your day? You know, oh, I had this client, I had that, and I get the kids and said it, and you know, well, what'd you do? Well, I went riding.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to explain.
Had an amazing day.
You know, it's like, yeah, it was a great day, and I would love to be able to share it with you, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, the selfish thing, it just, you know, not even just with my wife, just like like you know, I do have a kid that's still in school that, you know, I didn't see him for, you know, 7 weeks over the summer.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where it starts
Sure.
to tie in, you know what I mean?
oh yeah, absolutely,
And like weigh on you and shit like that, for me at least.
yeah.
You know, and I think 7 weeks, what does that equal out to? Like what?
Almost 4 months? No,
No,
2 months.
almost 2 months.
Yeah.
But like, you know, we're talking like not even what Chris did with 100 days, but he came back home at least and said hi and bye a couple times. You know?
Yeah.
But you know, I know people that have been out for extended periods of time that do have a life,
Yeah.
and I just, you know, I don't want to get comfortable with that. It's
Sure.
kinda what I'm
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
at.
No. Yeah. Absolutely. You know.
You've heard of like Scooter Tramp Scotty?
Yeah, I know. I know of him. I don't know him personally, but
So I feel like it's like
I definitely I love hearing how he talked about how he got to where he's at.
yes,
You know, it didn't just start overnight.
yeah. He
you know what I mean? It was just
slowly
like
started going further and further. So I'm like, what is that? What is that amount of time on the road where you cross that threshold and go, you know what? Fuck home.
yeah. So like I feel like I definitely feel like I could go that way.
Yeah.
I don't think that I am. I don't think I'm there yet, but I'm like, I could see. I completely understand how he got to where he's at. It made sense to me. You know, it's like
Yeah.
he had a regular job, and you know, then it's just like weekends became weeks, and you know, then months, and then you know, it wasn't an overnight deal. But I'm like, personally, I'm just, you know, if I had mailbox money,
Yeah.
I would probably say it'd be a lot easier for me to get there. You know what I mean? So it's probably good that I don't, or maybe it's bad that I don't. I don't know. But I don't. I don't want to live on the road for the sake of just living on the road.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like whenever I was real young, I spent a lot of time on the road with my dad, you know, building buildings, and you know, I'm kind of, you know, a motel rat. You know, that's kind of how I grew up. You know, and so I don't like, just for the sake of saying, you know, oh, well, it's summertime, it's time to go north, and it's, you know, it's wintertime, it's time to go south. I'm not, you know, I respect that, but my thing is more like, I would love to be able to say, let's say, I don't know, I've been gone 2 years riding my bike everywhere, right? And then come back and be like, this is what I saw.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
So-
Not just say, I spent 2 years on the road.
So Charlie Traveling Chopper, you know him? So Charlie Traveling, he was actually on the podcast, I think a week or two before Chris did when he did ours. And he's from like Colorado, Loveland, Colorado, just north of Boulder. And he has a full rigid, like Softail Evo, or I think it's a twin cam chopper. So no suspension in the front, no rear. It's raked the fuck out. And he rode around the world.
I know of him. Yeah. Because of that bike. Yeah.
So
he's got like pictures of him riding in gravel and shit. You know?
So he came here, did the podcast, and then I got to snap a couple of photos of him because I was like, you know, maybe these are the last photos of you. Yeah. And then he went, you know, he went to the coast. He went to Daytona. I think he was on his way to that, and then shipped and jumped over, and then just rode around the world. And to me, his wife is kind of like, she's in the military, so he was going to see her in the military, like overseas somewhere, and then continue on. So I think his household, they don't have kids, you know what I mean? It just lends itself to be that kind of vagabond, if you will.
Yeah.
Which there's a part of me that like, you know, I like to tell people like I have a wanderlust for experiences, not so much. It's not that it's travel, but travel does kind of garner new experiences. You know what I'm saying? But like, I want to say I did that, or I felt that, or I tried that, or I, you know, whatever the case. And so there's a part of me that's like, fuck, man, I'd love to ride the road of bones. You know what I mean? I'd love to try that. But there's the other part of me that is a prissy little bitch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That needs 3 showers a day.
Yeah. So, you know, I definitely never thought that I would be where I'm at now with that type of, because I had most of my adult life, I've had real bad back issues. And so I couldn't camp because I couldn't lay on the ground, you know, I'd be stuck there, you know, just like that. Right. So like I had ruptured discs for a long time and never had them taken care of. And then, so it wasn't until like 2020 where I went and had spinal fusion done. And it changed my life in a positive way because like before I couldn't stand for like maybe a half hour, maybe, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't walk for, you know, just like I was in bad shape, you know? Yeah. And so, like any type of like camping or, you know, anything that wasn't in my posturepedic bed, you know, it just wasn't happening, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then so I had that fixed, and immediately felt better and immediately started being able to do other things. And that part of my life, like, you know, like just camping or whatever like that, never really came. It never came up. You know, like I never had a reason to test this out. You know what I mean? Like to test if I could sleep on the ground or not, until we did the Goats tour, the Texas tour, and then so we had to. So at this point, I hadn't really known Riot very well. You know, I've known of him and we talked and our paths have crossed, but I didn't know him.
I didn't even know him at all.
He called, so we're having Zoom calls prior to us going out for the tour. And he was like, yeah, we're going to do some camping and this and that. And I was like, well, wait a minute. You said we were going to go to Area Harley Dealership in Texas during July, right? Yeah. You want to camp? Yeah. I was like, and you're from where? You're from Jersey, right? It's like nice weather there right now. I was like, you know, it's 100 degrees here, you know? And I was like, in the evenings, it's like 90. Yeah. I was like, that doesn't sound like very fun camping to me, but I mean, if an 8-year-old can do it, I can do it, you know? Yeah. It's just like, I just want to make sure that
there's a lot of shit an 8-year-old can do I can't do. So.
That's true.
So
bend over and touch your toes. Put your socks on normal.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. Yeah. But so an 8-year-old boy with Duchenne's disease, I should say.
Yeah.
So but so our first night we spent on the beach in Galveston and blowing up my air mattress. And I was like, I knew this was gonna. I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
I didn't
brought
want
an air
to,
mattress.
I like a big one, like a
Yeah.
queen.
Like a double decker queen. Like, I don't know how he had a tent that big.
Wake
so,
up,
like,
he's
man,
already. He's the current took him out already.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, there was plenty of jokes. So like I was like, man, I don't want to blow this thing up. I was like, I kind of waited for everybody to get settled, And they're like, is that a generator? Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
So I'm blowing up my deal. It's like
This dude had
that
a
thing
battery
is
pack
still
like this
blowing
big.
up, And it's yeah, they were roasting me pretty good. They're like, dude, because the current came in and we had to pick up that night. And they're like, wow, Setzer, he could have just floated right out, on his raft.
Forever. Yeah.
But so like that was like, the first time that I ever had a need to sleep outside or not in my, bed, And then so I kind of like got to working on me a little bit, and then of course the second night we camped somewhere else and did the same thing, But it wasn't until I was riding somewhere and I was exhausted and I needed to sleep, and you hear stories of how people do it and what they do, and I was like, I forget where I was at, but I was like, man, I just need to shut my eyes for a minute. And I remember I was like kneeling down next to my bike, and then I was sitting down next to my bike, and then I was like laying down, and then I woke up and I was like, I'm not in extreme pain. I was like, that's cool. That's first time in 20 years, I think, that I ever had to try to figure this out. So I was like, so then I just kind of kept exploring that, I was like, wow, I can sleep anywhere,
Yeah, you can sleep anywhere.
So
Yeah, I was pretty blown away. I brought camping gear and stuff like that whenever we went to Vegas or to Florida, and like I said, we left in the middle of the night, and then I could think come like 3 or 4 in the morning. We were both like nodding off. And then
I was like, dude, I got to shut my eyes just for a minute.
Yeah.
What's weird is sometimes I can shut my eyes and not go to sleep, and just like you let your body like try to fall asleep a couple times, and it's like, hey, that's good. I can go ride for another couple hours. It's
It's
Are you
kind of
doing
like
that on
a
the bike?
power nap kind of thing.
Okay,
no, I'm talking about like pulling over and doing that.
I got you.
But
I mean, I like I said, I had my camping gear and stuff. I was ready, and so he was like, "Cool, we're gonna pull over for a minute." I was like, "Cool." We pull in this Love's, and he fucking he takes his jacket off and puts under his head on the curb, and I was like, "Oh, like we're just gonna cool, yeah." So then we laid down on the curb and went to sleep. I never slept so good in my life because, like I said, we both didn't sleep for the whole day before.
I used to always say, like, when I would be in like school, like I'm thinking way back, right, 20 years ago, and I'm like, man, I'll be in like 5th period, and I'm like, I could sleep on this fucking concrete floor right now, and you just be out there, you'd be doing some kind of exercise, and you're like,
Yeah.
best sleep of your life, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, when you ride a lot, sometimes I love just like how it feels just to lay on concrete.
Yeah.
Oh,
Something
yeah.
really hard.
Yeah.
It sounded weird, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. No. I mean, you like lay on hard things. I mean, it's cool.
Didn't sound any better. But sometimes, right? It just depends on where you're at. You get a for some reason, in Texas, it could be 90, but the concrete could be like 75 or 80 or something like that. It'd be kind of cool. It's just like, well, this is nice.
I've the last couple of years of my traveling, I'm taking so much electronics out there, and it's kind of like I really don't need to, but it's like you're looking at your cameras and lenses and you're fucking, do I really want to take a drone? Do I want to video this trip? And so the next thing you know, you have a whole bunch of camera gear.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then you're like, well, I'm only got a couple pairs of clothes, like real minimal on that. But then you're like, I don't know if I have room for a camp, like my camping setup and, things like that. And so I've kind of opted out of camping the last couple of years. Okay. And I miss it. Like when you're on a trip with your friends and you go camp, it's like you get to like sit around a fire or whatever or something and kind of reminisce about the day, as opposed to like a hotel room is kind of like, it's just purpose. Like we're going to bed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Occasionally there'll be one of those nights where like someone grabs a 12-pack and we're in the parking lot till 4 a.m. But that's, you can't plan those ones, but every time you go to a campsite, it's pretty good conversation.
When we did the U.S. tour, a rider, a monster, Luma, Chris, I don't know his last name. Is it Luma?
We call him Luma.
Yeah, we call him Luma. He's a pretty solid dude. He's a damn good rider. Puts down some miles. It's funny because like the group of mile monsters, it's like these guys come from everywhere just to hang out for like an hour. Like Frankie Mountains. This dude lives in Yakima, Washington, and he will ride. In fact, he rode on the goat store. He rode
1,500
like.
mile.
I thought it was more than that. Let's just say it was though. It's like he rode 1,500 miles to put down 100 miles with us, and then rode 1,500 miles to go back.
Because he had to go to work the next day,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I like it. I think it's cool as hell, and that's definitely the dude's got a different type of nutsack than I do. But I also feel like is there something wrong?
yeah, there's got to be. There's got to be.
There's got to be something
Because
attached.
like this guy Luma that I was talking about, right? So same thing.
Oh,
it's like he's out of Mississippi, and so this dude shows up, and there's only like in my opinion, don't get mad at me. In my opinion, there's like a couple of ways that you can meet up with a group of people that are riding.
Yeah.
And that is when they are stopped at a motel or something like that, you show up at that motel and you wait for them to leave. And then you ride with them.
Yeah.
Or if they're on the road, you get out in front and you wait for them to pass and then you haul ass and you catch them. Those are the two ways that you're going to meet up. You shouldn't. They should not have to accommodate you.
If they deferred their route, you did a bad job.
Right. And so Loomis shows up at this motel that we're staying at. I don't even know where the hell we're at. And
Beginning of day 3, right?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But I was like, oh, badass Loomis here. It's just like it's just like throughout the whole trip, people just pop up like gophers here and there.
So
right?
sick.
And then so we're getting ready to roll out. This is the day of the Stars and Stripes.
Yep. Also, that's day 4.
So we're getting ready to roll out, and I hear Luma. He takes off, and I was like,
Dude.
what? I was like, did somebody get? I thought somebody got into a wreck. I was like, what the hell is that noise? Dude. And everybody's laughing, and I was like, what was that? They're like, that's Luma's bike. I was like, it sounds like a machine gun. What the hell?
Shit. I turned my bike on the same time he did. I freaked the fuck out.
Yeah, because I was like, there's no way that thing's, because we had like 100 or something miles to go.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way that thing's making it 100 miles. It would make it 10 miles if I was riding it. You know, what the hell's wrong with that dude's bike?
Yeah.
So, the machine gun bike. So we get the Stars and Stripes and he buys a new bike.
Yeah.
Because his is shot. I mean, it's the whole,
smoke.
yeah. And then so he buys a new bike. And then so we carry on and he's like, we'll catch up with you guys, And then so he goes, like, he gets a new bike, he breaks it in, he does his first 1,000 miles, like, in a day, and he goes and he gets us, and then he meets up with us in like a couple of days. Wherever we were at, that he comes, he meets back up with us, and he's on a new bike, and then he rides some more miles with us. You know what I mean?
So he's like on a bridge top somewhere.
Yeah.
And then, I was like, oh, that's
there goes Luma,
And then. Yeah, then he sees us on the road.
So we were at a motel. It's like you're saying, you can't plan those nights. But one of the nights that he'd stayed with us on the U.S. tour, we went and got a 12-pack, and we were just talking. It was just cool. It was like, one of the because like you're right, definitely with the motels, it's very purpose. It's like there's not a whole lot of hanging out when you get to the motel. Even if you try to, it's just like. You get tired, and then that bed's right there.
Right,
it's like
one out of or probably 2 out of 10 people are going to see the bed and see the room and decide not to socialize that night.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been that guy plenty of times.
Oh, I'm usually that guy.
I mean, a big reason that people would bullshit before camping is because camping kind of sucks. It's not as enticing as a bed and air conditioning.
There's not the amenities, right? I mean, it's not like ice cold air conditioning and hot
We'd always
shower.
try to we would do our group trips together. We would try to plan the camping spots to be in epic places.
Okay.
That way you're going to bed somewhere kick ass and you're waking up at a cool spot, as opposed to, we're in Gallup, New Mexico at the KOA. I'm not doing that.
It's stupid hot and there's no scenery. Dude, we did this trip in June, me, my brother, and a friend of ours, Kyle.
Yeah.
So we rode from Texas up to Seattle, and then we flew the girls out to Seattle, and then the 6 of us rode from there. We went down the PCH as far as we could, and then we cut over at Big Sur because the road was closed. Yep. And so we went across, went in through Yosemite, and then we split up somewhere in Utah, and then me and my girl, we went to Lebanon, Kansas for a mile muster thing. But on the way up to Seattle, they're like, so like my brother, he's kind of funny. He's kind of fanatical about planning and everything. He's like he's that guy. We call he's like our road cap, right? And then so like I don't even bother You know, I'm just like, dude, I'll follow you, man. Where it doesn't matter. You want to go see something cool, whatever. And so they were kind of drawing a blank. And then so like I'm riding Alder this year, and then so I was like, well, if we're going through New Mexico, you know, like I can, you know, I would like to get a picture of the world's largest pistachio because that's a hog ride. You know, I mean, if we can swing by there, that'd be cool. You know,
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, sure, we can do that. I was like, okay, well, how about, you know, I got like a long list of shit that I got to get in every state. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, well, how about this? And how about that? And how about, and they're like, yeah, you know. So we ended up somewhere in Colorado. I don't remember where it was at, but it was just on the fly. It was like we come pulling in, I don't know, it was probably about 7:30 or so at night, and then there's this campsite, and it was on a lake. It was like, and then so like the like we passed all these shitty spots, and then the dude was like, "Here's your spot," and it was like right on the water. And it was just awesome, and like not, you know, the neighbors were kind of far away, and I was like, really, this is all our spot, you know? Like, did y'all have to pay a premium for this? This is badass, you know? And then so like the kind of drawback to that, because it was like, man, I don't want to leave. You know, it's like the town was a small town in Colorado. It was just cool. You know what I mean? That's like a river ran through it. You know what I mean? I was like, I could hang out here for a month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is just cool here.
It's like a Steamboat Springs. I like that town. It's got that vibe, a lot of good restaurants, but it's small. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It still shuts down early. Except for the bar.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we ran into a couple of spots like that where it was just, you know, all the food was, we lucked out with the food. The food was good every night when we did that June trip, I mean. And it was just,
I was going to say, because when I went, I ended up choosing to go the Eastern Sierras north from LA. Mm-hmm. But I was originally going to just like do PCH up to San Francisco. And in June it was closed, but they opened it in July, from what I understand.
Oh, the PCH?
Yeah, down south, like around Big Sur and all that.
No,
because like otherwise,
figures.
you would have had, I mean, I've done it a handful of times. I was telling him last night, the biggest, and I'm sure you get this like with people that ask like, what's the prettiest roads? What's the best rides and things? And it just,
that's a tough question.
Yeah,
You know?
it really is, because some of the places I think in our minds are going to be that even on paper, even in theory, this is like the nicest road or some of the nicest shit I've ever been in. But the rest of the environment, all the people, all the tourists, all this, it takes away so much of the excitement or the feeling of riding it.
Yeah.
You know, so like you talking about riding through, of course you were not coherent to take care of or be a part of it. But like, you know, if you were in Sturgis area, in the Black Hills, off Raleigh, it would probably be amazing to ride like Needles and Iron Mountain and all that stuff, Spearfish Canyon.
Luckily, I have been through there coherent and not riding the Hoka Hey, but it is beautiful riding out there, you know? And then so like my whole thing with Sturgis is like, first time I did Sturgis was in 2020, right after I bought that Road Glide, my 131. And then so I went solo, and then I didn't know what it was about. And I'm not really a big party guy anymore, you know what I mean? It's like big crowds aren't my thing, you know, but I was like, Sturgis is, you know, everybody's got to do Sturgis, right? So I was like, man, if I'm ever going to do this again, I'm going to go like a week before, you know? And then like I kept saying that over and over, and then I'm like, you know, I'm just going to go now. You know what I mean? Because the riding's, you know, it's like, it's beautiful out there.
It is.
And then so the what was funny is like when I went in 2020, everybody was freaking out about the heat, you know, like I went through Devil's Tower area, and I did that loop coming back to Rapid City. And so like as I was coming back this way, there was I stopped at this gas station, and it was like these guys, like it looked like they were dying, you know. They're just like, it's so hot. I'm like, dude, it's 95. I mean, you know, like, I mean, it's hot, but I mean, you know, like it's like we're used to that, you know. So I was just like, I thought that was funny. And then, but what was really crazy is like, it was that kind of heat, you know, but you get into the damn the state parks and all that, and it drops down to 60 like that, you know, in the mid 60s. And it's like, oh my God, you went from sweating your ass off to like, I kind of need like a little windbreaker, you know?
Jacket on.
Yeah, it was actually pretty hot in Sturgis this year. You know what I mean? And then last year it was raining the whole time. And the year before that, it was perfect. It was like 60 degrees everywhere. Nice. You know, so it's like you're rolling the dice every year at Sturgis with the weather.
Yeah, we ran into a little bit of, as I was coming in, I saw my first double rainbow. It was, And I could see it like from horizon to horizon. It wasn't like broken up. You know, it was like a perfect rainbow, and it was a double.
Yeah.
And it was kind of eerie because like it looked like it was a gate, and it was like it was a you know, it was I was kind of like following a storm. You know, and it looked like there was just like this gate that I was going through, and I was just like, man, I don't know that I want to go through this gate. It looks like it's going to be bad up there. You know?
Yeah, you might change on the other side of it.
Yeah, no shit, right? The Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, it was pretty cool. There was a lot of, like you said about, you know, the prettiest roads. You know, there's so many things that take away from what's really cool, right? So Forrest Gump Point, I'm sure you've been through there, right?
One
Monument.
of my favorite, yeah, right there.
So,
Well, that's not the point, but that's on the other side of it, yeah.
first time I ever went there, it blew my mind that it was such a touristy area with no buildings, nothing to sell, but people are just lined up on the side of the road taking selfies in the middle of the road. So much so that they have permanent signage that says "Watch for people on the road."
Yeah.
You're in the middle of the desert. Why would there be people on the road? You know what I mean? But there, you know, it was like
I was one of those people.
and I was too.
Yeah.
And I was too.
But you know, the first time I ever went to Forrest Gump Point in Monument Valley, like there was nobody there.
Oh, really?
And I got to run it so many, like it's almost a yearly pilgrimage for me to go there because that area, and I think we dived down this rabbit hole so many times on the podcast, but being in those desert areas like that, especially like those Navajo nations or even like in Terralingua, it's got the same feeling. There's something about the way it feels there.
Yeah.
It feels different. It feels, you know, we stay at the San Juan Inn every once in a while, like right there in a Mexican Hat, and it's just special out there. You know what I mean?
The San Juan Inn. That's like when you come. Well, it's the only place. Well, I don't wanna
There's
say
a
the
couple,
only,
but it's like the
is that the one that's to the left?
yeah,
Like,
tucked on the side of the hill.
yeah,
and then the river.
Yes,
Beautiful.
I stayed. Yeah, so like the first time that I went there, I stayed there, and I was like, I thought it was cool because they still had the old school keys from for the motel, right? And then so that's another place that I was like, that's probably a little bit of a stretch there, but that's definitely a place I could stay for a couple of days.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that, just
you go
that little,
north,
that little spot there is just a cool little motel and a little bar, you know, and it's like the river, you know, when it's like this is just a cool little place. You know,
We sat out there, our group, and then our buddy Hans from Montrose met us there. And there's like a patio on top of on the second floor that just overlooks like the grounds, I guess you would say, but you can see out into the river. Man, we polished off a bottle of whiskey between us all, just telling them war stories up there, and it was definitely should have been like recording it, but you know, it was one of those situations just sitting up there. And
it happens. You know, you can't plan. You can't.
Stars out the ass, like goddamn, you know.
That's bad, dude. That's bad. That's awesome. I have a couple of places though that you know that are like that where it's you don't expect them to be the gems that they are, and then the things that you expect to be, you know, like you've seen all the pictures of, and I see all the time. I see pictures of Maldives. You know, like it's like this beautiful, all this, you know, and it's like it's the alluring, right? It's like I want to go there, I want to check that out, and I'm like, I'm always so worried that if I ever put the scratch together to go there for a week or whatever, that it's just not going to live up to the hype that I've been putting in my head for all these years. Because that has happened so many times.
Well, like think about it. Like how was when you got to I mean, I think it was the hurricane, so you didn't really probably deal with this, but like the southernmost point, that little buoy.
Yeah,
dude. I've only been there once. Me and my buddy we were actually at the Hemingway house and we were doing that, and then we walked over to the buoy, and it's like there's a line 2 blocks down the street to go stand there and take a picture, and we're catty-corner across the street, and we just like and they kept walking. It's like I don't. To me, that's what like is kind of killing the major places that exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I have no desire. I've done it before, but there's no draw to Grand Canyon. There's no draw to, you know, like you go to Lake Tahoe. It's like it's pretty. There's a lot of cool stuff, but it's not like a one
by
spot.
people.
It's just.
So that thing about the southern buoy, right? So I went in the middle of the night for that reason. So like I wanted to go check it out, you know. So whenever we left out for Daytona, I did a BBG, which is 1,500 miles in 24 hours. And so my ride was from the house, or for where we started there at the office, down to the Keys because I wanted to get a lay of the land because it had been so long since I've been there.
So you went to the Keys first, and then Daytona, then back to the Keys?
Yeah.
There's something in you that's probably not.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Well, yeah.
No doubt.
And he left at midnight, not sleeping the day before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went down there, and then I was a little tired that day too, because so that's a hog ride, right?
Yeah.
And it's I don't know why I'm at this spot in my life, but like all of my life I've been so detached from material things I could give a shit less. You know what I mean? Like I don't collect things. I threw away my diploma in an argument once because I was like, I just don't need it. You know what I mean? I don't need things. I don't want things, right?
Tools.
But so lately, like over the last 5 years or so, I'm finding these little weird things like I want them. You know what I mean?
Sentimental.
Yeah, like I guess, and so these hog rides, which there's 50 rides, one nation is what it's called. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but if you're a national hog member, they have if you go to these things, if you do the ride and you take a picture at the point of interest, they'll send you a coin, and they're really nice coins. But you have to take a membership guide, and you have to take a selfie with it in front of the point of interest, right? So in the case of the Keys, it was the buoy, right? I was so out of it that I was gifted a goat that I keep on my bike from Gavin after the Texas tour.
Yeah.
And so I was so out of it, I took a selfie with the goat, and I didn't take a picture with them. So I submitted that to the hog, and I was like, "Look, I know it's supposed to be the membership guide." I was like, "But I was out of it. Here's my track. I did the ride. I was obviously at the buoy. I just, and then I got like a laughing kind of thing, and they're like, "Here's your coin." Yeah. I was like, can you give me a mulligan on this one? Anyways.
Yeah.
So, but I went in the middle of the night because I didn't want to deal with the people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm there. I'm checking out the buoy. I'm looking in the water, and I was going to jump in the water. Because there was something I wanted to get in the water there at the southern buoy, and I wanted to get in the water in Alaska.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then so I didn't in either place, and I'm glad.
Yeah, the water's weird right there.
Yeah, it's nasty.
That was like when I went to the Keys. That was the thing that like was off-putting, is that I'm going to Florida, so I'm thinking the Keys has beaches.
Yeah.
And there's really no beach other than one hotel that made a beach.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it was just kind of off-putting, but I enjoy it down there. It's kind of like, it's the only part of Florida I really like.
The Keys?
Yeah.
Really?
Or the Key. Not them all.
Yeah.
I mean, there's parts of it that I like, but it's just grueling.
Yeah.
And I like Big Sky. I like going west, and going east to me is about like being like around the history of America and the history of the land, which that's out west too. But you're just trapped, and you're so like confined in the trees and in all that stuff. So Florida's just, and I have a lot of friends there, and we have events that we go. So it's like I'm always going to Florida, so I end up like hating the ride more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
you got to take different routes, man.
How? Where?
Yeah.
There's one fucking ride that goes across the motherfucker, and then there's like 3 that go down. It's
Yeah.
like we've ridden the coast all the way from Florida, Bama, all the way around to almost Tampa, but it still cuts you in quite a bit. And that just, it's like it takes forever because you're not really on the coast most of it. You're kind of going through like Panama. You're sitting at street lights, and it's grueling.
So
I got to ride there the end of next month. So and I just drove there.
sounds like you're
week,
looking forward to it.
trying to psych myself up for it.
Yeah. So there was, what was kind of like strange for me is I didn't know for the Hoka Hey, most of the time I didn't know where I was at. I generally knew what state I was in generally, but I remember Paul Tong. He's a big in the rally world, and he lives close to Dallas. He was doing the Hoka Hey, and I'd met up with him on early day 2, and he was on a Pan America. He bought Chris Hopper's old Pan America, and then he hit a school bus with it. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that or not, but he wrecked his saddlebag, and then so I stopped and I was like, hey, you good? And he's like, I'm fine. So I hung out with him just for a second. And then so he's like, trying to regroup, figure out how he's going to do. He's like, well, I'm going to finish my route here, and then I'm going to go to the Harley dealership. And I was like, I didn't know where I was at. But at this point, we had already went to the Keys and came back. I didn't know where I was at. Yeah. And then so I was like, well, which Harley dealership is close to here? And he looks at me like I'm fucking weird. And he's like, the one we started at, Daytona. It's just right. We're right here by where we started.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. Well, yeah. I was like, well, yeah. Well, I mean, they'll come get it. Whatever. Whatever. Mm-hmm. So I get on and I continue the route. And it takes me literally right in front of Destination that whole little complex. It's that's a cool place.
Yeah.
And then so it takes me right in front of it, and I was like, holy shit. So I text him. I was like, hey, dude. I was like, if you just follow the route, it's going to take you right in front of the Harley. And he's like, right. It's like, where the hell I'm at? How do you know?
Yeah.
But so it was, there's a moment in my life where LaGrange, Georgia had a kind of impact on me or whatever. And so me and Riot were riding together on day 2 in Georgia. And then I was like, hey, I know some of this. And then I was like, I think we're in LaGrange. And then so like, I'm talking to him. I was like, hey, dude, I was like, right up here is a titty bar. And I used to live with this chick that was like 3 miles from here. And then I was like, I built a Walmart distribution center right over the hill and this and that. And of course it's way grown up than it is now. And then he was like, yeah, I was like, I had no idea that we were even going to come.
Is the titty bar still there?
Huh?
Is the titty bar still there? Or they turned into a Starbucks or something?
No, actually, I don't know. We didn't go past that.
Yeah.
But it was up the right. It was, and dude, this place was, it defines white trash, man. It was like they didn't have a platform for the girls. They just built like a pony wall, and the girls would walk through it. So it was just like you lean up against the bar, and it's like
you're looking down at them.
Yeah. And it's like they served you cans of beer. It was like
that's crazy. Hay on the ground. Here's some peanuts.
Dude, it was ghetto. It was funny because there were some kids. They got caught. They were sneaking into the attic, and then they would shimmy over to where the girls were dancing. Yeah. And it was a suspended ceiling. And so like they'd peel up a tile or make a hole or whatever. They were peeping through to see their girls dancing or whatever. And these kids fell through. They fell through the damn ceiling onto the.
It's like a scene of Porky's or something.
Yeah. It was hilarious. I don't even think they gave them a hard time. I don't even think they called the cops. They're just get the hell out of here. It was fun. It was fun times though.
So you said that like you got into like shooting photography a little bit, like photos, and I know that Chase does as well.
Yeah, so I kind of started down that rabbit hole before he did, and he
was first. Huh?
No, that's not where I was going with it. But I mean, like, he's always had a real good eye, even with like his phone. You know what I mean? Yeah. But, and then so I started doing some moto vlogging for a little while, and the very first vlogs that I was doing. Man, they were fun. They were fun to edit. They were fun to put together. They were fun to film, and I'd found out later that people that were watching it, they were like, dude, we watched your videos and it's like, everybody just looks like they're having a good time. And it just made me want to go out and have a good time, and I was like, perfect, because that's what I was going for, and it was just like, just good fun, whatever, right? And then so like, he's in several of them, and then so I'm a nerd by heart, by just how I'm wired, so I'm just like, you start with a camera, whatever it is, whether it's your phone or whatever. And then so I'm just like, how come it doesn't look like that?
Yeah.
And then you go through the YouTube rabbit hole, and then it's like, so then I bought a Canon M50. And then so like just to vlog with, you know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, well, this big, huge lens on there is really hard to hold up, keep steady, because there's no stabilization. And so then I'm like a tripod, and you just got all this shit. And then it's like, you got to streamline it. It's just, you go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And then so I was more on the video side of things, more than the photography side. Mm-hmm. And so I think though, those two worlds kind of come together for a little while. And I feel like that influenced you a little bit to take your game to the next level.
That definitely influenced me. And then I actually took his first vlogging camera as a photography camera, the M50.
Yeah.
I
remember that.
It's like a little $400 camera. You even got that one used, right? And so he let me borrow that. And his lenses, he had a nice little array of lenses, the Sigma Trinity, which is, I don't remember what they are, but, and a 2470 with an adapter.
Yeah.
And so I remember I put the 2470 with the adapter on it. he's like, and this is the tripod I use for vlogging if you want to get into it. And it's like, I picked that up and I was like, my forearms, I don't know how you were doing that. But then, yeah, I held on to that M50 for a good minute, like a little over a year. We shot the GOAT tour. All of my photography was shot on that M50 with, I think it was, no, I was using the Sigma Trinity throughout the whole thing. And sometimes I'd use a 2470.
Yeah. So Trinity is typically like a 15 to 35, 24 to 70, and a 70
there
to
were 3
200.
prime lenses.
Oh, they're prime.
And
Okay.
so the Sigma 50, and it was an M50, right? So it was a crop sensor. So it was like 56 or 36 mil, and then
it was a 30, 56.
Weird numbers.
Yeah, it was like a 16, a 30, and a 56. Yeah. 30 was kind of weird, and 56 was weird, but yeah. And so like I shot most of my stuff on that, and then.
You did most of the stuff on the bike with the 30, right? The 36 or whatever it was? 30?
Yeah, I did most of the stuff with the 30 on that one. But, and then, yeah, when we were coming back from Sturgis, we went to Sturgis for a Mile Monster event. We were on our way back. We were both taking pictures of each other. And some of the best pictures I have of myself on a bike was from that trip. And you just, camera on auto, just click, and like,
he was pissed. He was
pissed
like,
me off.
Dude.
Because like I know the settings really well on the M50. I shot to the very best of my ability and all.
So I was shooting on an RP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so he's like, the colors on your RP out of the box are what I try to edit to with my M50. You know,
the color and the clarity, and then
that's just the crop sensor versus the full frame.
And the lenses. He was using Canon L glass, and I was using Sigma.
And those Sigmas are good lenses, but
yeah.
Just that whole RP setup was
like a huge thing. Was like the biggest reason that I wanted to upgrade to the RP was when he took that picture, the road was blurry, my wheels were blurry. I couldn't handle that on my crop sensor with no stabilization and my lenses with no stabilization. I had to be shooting at like 300 shutter speed or higher. And so like I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so the biggest push was my uncle Cody Melton is a real estate photographer. And whenever he got signed on with Cowboy Austin, he was like, I need someone that I can dependably push my real estate stuff to, but your camera gear sucks.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it does.
He's a Nikon guy, right?
He's a Nikon guy. I know. Yeah, funky. But he makes it work. I fucking couldn't.
He's great. He's always done well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so anyway, he got me into that, and he's like, get a full frame, get a wide angle lens. I borrowed his. He has a 15 to 35 2.8, which is all you need in photography, really. Real estate photography for the type of real estate photography that we're doing.
Yeah.
You're not doing the Beverly Hills houses and stuff like that with the 85 millimeter to get the corner of a couch and shit. But yeah, so that got me into the RP, and now I'm looking at R5s and all that. But
but this just like with riding, right? You need a goal. You need something to do, right? And so like with riding and long distance riding, it's like you need a place to go see some shit. And so like with him in photography, and when his uncle turned him on to the real estate stuff, it made him get out and shoot more. You know what I mean? And it's so weird, right? Because it's like you have all this gear, and it's like you can go shoot anytime that you want and practice and learn and do these things. But what I've found for me is like I usually throw myself in the deep end of the pool. You know what I mean? It's like now I got to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then so like with photography, it's like. Like I put myself in a position where now I need to learn how to do these things. You know what I mean? And then so like with, real estate, it's like, okay, now I've got to figure this out.
I have to figure these things out. I have to make sure that wall looks white. Yeah. Because that's what it looks like in real life.
That kind of practice, especially I'm coming up in almost 10 years, like about 8 years of me dabbling in it, if you will.
Yeah.
And I feel like I just now really got a good balance over the last year with white balance.
Yeah. Well, the last year, there's a crazy noticeable difference in your photography for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, we talked a little bit about it last night, but a lot of it is chasing what you see. Like you're trying to emulate the people that's inspired you, and their styles, what they've accomplished, and then in all those endeavors of chasing, like trying to level your skills up, if you will, like you said, getting thrown in the deep end or finding ways to throw yourself in the deep end to learn something. Yeah. You start to develop your own style, and I still don't feel like I'm there with photography. Paint, I am. Like I own my shit, but photography, I still feel like I see a lot of influence from other people, and I haven't quite found that yet. But there's so many people that do it that you really, I don't even know if you can say that it's yours.
Yeah,
it's like you're just borrowing the thing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's all been done, right?
Yeah.
agree.
I mean, shooting from a motorcycle. Lichter, did that shit years ago. Kirpius does it. A lot of people do
What was
it.
What's the dude's name? He's got more hours riding backwards.
Lichter.
Lichter.
Yeah.
It's Michael Lichter. Yeah.
So you have I think I think the only turning point that I had was, like I said, I don't know if the cameras were running earlier. It's like, I don't care to shoot for social media anymore. I want to shoot for a different reason.
Yeah.
Therefore, the images can, the background now has more connection to the image. Like, I don't want it to look like I don't want it to look like it's so edited that like clearly the sky is not orange.
Yeah.
It's the air, the atmosphere can't be orange. Like the color editing gets so deep that it starts to date, like timestamp the image when it was done.
Like whenever you see like early Instagram photos, everybody has the same early Instagram photos.
Yeah, it's with a filter on it.
With that like orange
and a border. Yeah,
and the border. Yeah, that's how long somebody's been like an OG.
So
Instagram.
my photography page, like I left my original shots that I started kind of dabbling in over edited, super contrast, super structure.
Yeah.
Just fucking see every crack in the concrete, right?
Right.
And then I wanted to leave it there to show the progression.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. And
So-
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. And it kind of like somewhat bugs me whenever I see like my friends, with the stunning stuff, they'll take down their old stunning stuff. Like, oh, it's embarrassing. Yeah, dude, that's the point. You
Yeah.
know, you want people to be able to see that you're growing. You didn't start amazing.
Talking about frustrating, he shoots. He'll shoot whatever, right? And then for people, just at the stunt lot or whatever it is, and then like they'll just screenshot the message and then crop like the phone part of it out. Like he sent him like a badass picture, an image. You know what I mean? And they're like, oh, that's cool, and then they just screenshot it and then crop out the shit, and then that's their new
It happens all the
Facebook
time. It happens
profile picture. It's like,
Yeah.
your picture was awesome, and then you screenshotted it. Now there's no depth to it. There's no resolution. You can't zoom in. You can't what are you doing to
I
me?
give this to you for
and
free.
now you're telling everybody that this is shot by me. And now I'm like,
You fucked it all up.
Yeah, when they would take the image and like edit it too. I'm like,
Oh,
dude,
don't tag me in that. Don't tag me in that.
it's not me anymore.
Yeah.
Chase shot this.
No.
Yeah, but I didn't edit it.
I was around when that picture was taken for sure. Yeah. Or
It's just the connection of people to images. Like for the most part, I think people don't look at photography. I've said this a million times. Photography is just something that's on their phone and on their profiles. It doesn't go up on their walls hardly anymore.
Yep.
Right.
You don't even notice it that it's still widely used all over the world, like ads, restaurants, everything like that. But yeah, that's why I wanted to start printing, and I want to, show it. I want people to see what that thing on your phone looks like and what it looks like in real life, and go, man, like I feel that.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Printing was the best thing I've done in photography.
Yeah.
It's not for other people. I mean, I've printed a couple of things for friends and stuff like that, all for free, of course, because nobody wants to buy prints. I'm sure you know. I was telling Matt last night that because he was saying like he doesn't feel he has a hard time coming out with the camera, and I was like, if you print more stuff, it'll make you like you'll be like, I wish I could print this that I'm seeing right in front of me, and you want to bring the camera out more.
Yeah.
Or you'll go to print something right before you print it, you go, this isn't perfect, and then for me, I can be a perfectionist, so that makes me strive for.
I'm sorry about
the
that.
perfect one. Yeah, this guy really jacked me up with the jeans. But yeah, no, I mean, printing's an integral part of photography, especially now. And I know I've heard you talk about it a ton on the podcast, and it's something that I truly agree with, which is, I mean, like photos they don't exist if they're not in the real world. They disappear so fast. As soon as they make it to your phone, if they don't leave your phone, they're gone forever, unless they're just like a proof that I was there kind of photo. But
Well, I think that
Might get a throwback Thursday little hashtag post one day.
Wheel Wednesday or whatever.
The advancement of technology and the progression, it's exponential, right? So it's good and bad. It seems like it can be more bad at times. It's like there's so much power here, there's so much capability here, right, than what used to be in like whatever cameras. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it's like I've got all these pictures in here, that I don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to delete nothing. You know what I mean? And that's just I don't delete anything about anything anywhere. I got emails from 2005, but so it's like you know, like I keep, I'm that guy that I'm Google's MO perfect customer, right? Because it's like, they know I'm not going to delete anything. And then so once my shit fills up, they're like, hey, it's time for you to buy more. It's time for you to buy more storage, you know? And it's like, you look to see where your storage is at, and it's always in pictures, you know what I mean? Like, and then I'm like, I'm going to buckle down and I'm going to go through this, right? You get through like a month and I'm like, I got shit to do.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, I wish there was a better way. I wish that was better.
So, you know what helped me? Like, you know, I was telling you the story about sitting down with Lichter last year. Well, last year also, I kind of picked up a film camera, and I sucked, and I still suck. It's like such a humbling experience. Like when you use a modern camera and technology, when you go back to use the old stuff, you just start. It makes you look at photography differently, because when you know you can pop off 30 shots a second. Not that I really ever shoot that way, but you can. You know you can capture an image in a spot. When you have 36 images, roll 36 options on a roll of film. Yeah. You're just more like looking at it. You're assessing things more. You're waiting for the light to be in a better spot. You're waiting on a better moment. You're not just frivolously shooting, and you start to be more like conscious of composition, which is really the only thing.
Yeah.
And nowadays, how the fuck? This day and age.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Fucking brain fart. This day and age where you can set yourself up or set yourself apart rather than a photographer, anybody else, because everything else is obtainable. You know, all the skills, all the camera gear, all the things online. It's not a thing you're born with. It's an obtainable skill, right?
Right.
And you know, the composition side of things is also obtainable as well, but you have to train your eye to notice it, recognize it, be aware of it.
Yep.
And that's the practice that I've been putting in the last couple of years. And I would say that film helped me kind of start going down a path that I'm more proud of.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't really care to shoot film anymore.
Yeah.
I still have a couple roles that like, it's the biggest tease and letdown.
Okay.
You know, it's like, oh, this is going to be so sick. And then you see it and it's not, but you still like it because it's the only thing you got at that moment. Yeah. So you're okay with it, but you're not like, it's not like something that's going to go in your portfolio to show the world. It's more of like just a personal thing, you know?
Well, and the thing that you told me last night with the cropping, I can't wait to kind of focus more on that. And I'm sure that, I think you even said film helped with that a lot for you, because you can't crop a film image. You know?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that like you're scanning it in, you know, with like depending on whether you go with the large scale scan or not, you know, you just can't crop in and have detail. So, and also like detail, like why did film make such a big comeback? I think people wanted imperfections.
Yeah.
You know, I think it got to look so perfect, and so they like just a kind of a callback to like nostalgia of like, you know, I don't want to remember. This is too much information on a memory. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Too many
film
details,
was a little grainy, a little dusty, a little, you know, grainy. I already said grainy, but like it just represents a memory a little bit better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and then too, right? So like that's how my memories are anyway. They're grainy and they're dusty. You know, they're not perfect by no stretch.
For sure.
Somewhat to a fault. I'm like, I know for sure this happened like this. Well, it's not true.
Well, photography is one of those things too. I mean, it's the hobby of hobbies, right? Yeah. And I mean, it's a good business. It's one of those things that there's always used stuff on the market because there's always someone that's giving up on that idea.
Yeah.
It is,
or there's somebody that's moving on or like leveling up, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's every one of the photographers that I've been fortunate to have as somewhat of a mentor. They're all shooting on Canon 5D Mark IIIs or Mark IIs, like something that's almost 20 years old.
Yeah.
And they're shooting ad campaigns for brands, you know, with this camera. Yeah. And me, I'm a YouTube junkie, so I'm on here like thinking that if I don't get the new Canon R5 Mark II, I'm gonna be a shitty photographer.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing that I'm in the process of trying to weed out that
yeah, definitely not the gear, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it helps for sure.
It helps do certain things, but it doesn't.
It doesn't give you the eye. It doesn't give you the composition. It doesn't, you know.
Yeah, just because you build a great bike doesn't mean you're a good rider, you know?
So there's definitely a theme in my life when it comes, especially with business, right? So like whenever we started my printing business or we leveled up to printing business, you know, I'm like, I bought crazy amounts of gear. You know what I mean? In the printing world, it's like, I don't know, I was close to $500,000 in just equipment, you know, and it was so awesome because we could do anything, you know.
Amazing.
And I remember the supplier, the dudes from Grimco, like every time they'd come over there, they'd look around, like, what's up, you know? Like, dude, we've seen people, and I'm going somewhere with this, but they're like, you know, we've seen people in this business for 20 years that don't have nowhere near the gear that you got.
Yeah.
You know? Then I'm like, well, I don't want that to be. I'm trying to shorten my learning curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to grind my way to this gear to level up. I want to start here, you know, and it kind of work backwards to fill in the shit that I don't know. And I don't say that it's a bad strategy. We're not in that business anymore because a couple of reasons. COVID was one of them, but it was
There's a lot of reasons.
there was definitely some learning. It was tough to pass it. When you can literally do anything, you can print banners or pictures or whatever, you know.
Yeah, banners, pictures, flyers, cards. I mean, name something that gets printed, and we were able to do it.
Right. To pass up on some work, you know what I mean? It's like, hey, can you print posters?
Yeah.
Well, how many you want? 3? Yeah, we'll do it. You know,
Made
and it's
$10, 3 hours of work.
trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? It was like, you know, we definitely. There was definitely ways that we could have gone about doing it and making some money, you know what I mean? So like just start with, you know, banners or something, you know what I mean? But one of the cool things was that we bought this machine and it was kind of cool to see you've got one, a print out there that it had the ability to print, not acrylic,
They
but
call it varnish.
Varnish. And then so what it does is if you set the file up correctly, you can make certain things on the image pop in a shiny type of ink, right?
Yeah.
So
The rest of the image would be matte, and then that would be shiny.
And-
Or some people call it spot UV.
and I've not seen that product for sale.
Yeah.
And I think the reason is because you have to hold it and look at it to appreciate it.
I didn't notice
and
that
want
first.
Yeah.
So there's no way you or anybody really is going to look at that online and say, "Oh, I've got to have that."
I spent
But if
like-
you own one and you notice the
Well,
varnish,
I noticed the logo being shiny versus the thing, but then I noticed it like the fire and all the little light
Lights.
I
bulbs.
did.
Yeah.
I drew those out in
Yeah.
Illustrator. It was like 4 hours for like, yeah, I did this for fun.
Yeah.
Have it.
that was
So,
cool though. I mean,
yeah.
but just having that machine was
Yeah.
that if I had a whole bunch of money, which I don't, I would like to have that machine just to do my personal shit with. You know what I mean? We played around with so much shit with that machine.
Yeah, we threw away a lot of stuff.
And I found that somebody put something on my desk the other day. We had these the state of Texas cut out from a friend of ours that has a CNC machine. And then so we'd send him blanks, and then he'd cut out whatever shape that we'd want, and then we would put those shapes underneath our machine, and we'd print on them. And so I'd printed the Texas flag on the shape of Texas, and then like a logo in the middle of it, you know. And it was just cool, dope shit, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, lessons learned.
Yeah,
I'd still rather go ride, but
Yeah.
that was still fun to do.
Yeah, the printing stuff is, you know, like I have a company here I use to do my stuff, but they're kind of like very internet savvy. So something about it makes me feel like they're not art print kind of company.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But they do all the, like when I started researching on the different types of papers and prints, like they do the shit. So
Yeah.
it's like, well, it is the same stuff. It just doesn't seem like it because it's, I mean, it's the easiest thing. You go online, you put your shit in, it lets you know if it's good enough resolution to look decent, and then bam, they're here. So it's like the next day it's at the house.
That's badass.
That was
know?
another one of our issues is because our machine could print art quality. We were printing everything art quality. Which, I mean, most of our clients were real estate agents. You know, you don't need an art quality real estate sign. So that was fun.
Overachieving there. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just like all these, I mean, photography, when I jumped into the shit, it was kind of like it pushed me in, but I don't think I've actually made a dime using my camera or like here's, I want to say I have. I mean, I think I made like $5 last week when I sold an image or something like that, or just giving it to somebody. But like, I haven't been paid to shoot. I've never been paid to go shoot something. So it's, and I'm okay with it now, like, because I use it in so many other aspects of my business and like personal life of things I like to do. And it definitely helps my business. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that's got to be. yeah, you probably have not received monetary for pictures, but your photography has paid you in some kind of way.
Yeah, so if I didn't find a way to make it useful, I probably would have gave up a long time ago. And I think that in the back of my head, it's kind of like, it's like when you play the lotto and you're like, I know I'm not going to win. But right here, you're like,
But I might win.
What if I win? So in the back of my head, I'm like, well, maybe one day if I just keep doing this, then, you know, people see that I've stuck it out for a long time, and or they see the work and they like it, maybe an opportunity will come. So, and I'm kind of okay with that. So
yeah, I don't know. I like photography. I definitely like videography more. I'm more about the videos, but you know, I'm such a nerd about things that I can't let some of that shit go. Yeah. You know what I mean? The imperfections, the bad angles, you know, like, and then some of my, at the time, you know, when I was doing vlogging, I was like, you know, you see these guys putting out shit videos, and I'm like, you have the capability to make that video nice, but they're so funny. You know what I mean? That's all that matters. Like, that's what's driving their videos or whatever.
I mean, not to talk shit, but to, you know, maybe talk a little shit if they want to take it this way. I think most videos on YouTube that are a lot of channels that are big channels that are doing a lot of stuff. Other than I would say Two Lane Life, because I'm very close with them, and I think they put a lot of effort into like making great content.
Yeah, we both really like Two Lane Life.
I think that like everybody else is just trying to live up to the algorithm's expectations.
Yes.
And so it's
a lot
not.
of people. I would say I would agree with you.
Most
There's a lot of
content
people that
creators
do.
in general. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because it's, you know, you don't bite the hand that feeds you, you know, and it's unfortunate because it's like,
that takes away the artistic nature of it, because if I got to put out something every week to feed this algorithm instead of taking 2 weeks to make a better video,
right.
To me, it's like that doesn't, you know, like, so I think the best place to be in the YouTube space is to have a set of like values and morals and stick to those based on like you said, I'm not trying to put out shit videos. And I'm not saying that the videos that I've done are like
Right.
badass.
Yeah.
But I don't,
You haven't sold out.
the progress of getting better at it, I don't want to go backwards to feed an algorithm of just putting out shit.
Exactly.
You know, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I completely agree with you. And so, like, we were looking at some of my early stuff the other day, and it was like, it was fun to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it was cringy, you know what I mean? But it was like what we were doing. It was just like, you know, I think we were in New Mexico, we did this talk, we were talking about, you know, the ride and just us talking and, you know, video recording that, you know what I mean? It was just like, that was a fun video to make.
Yeah.
And like, you could see the progress of the quality, but at the core, it was the same, and it was just us having a good time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was, you know, family and riding and, you know, experiencing those things and trying to document it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, to what you were saying earlier about Two Lane Life, you know, those guys, you know, they, you know, from whenever they first started to now, you could see tons of improvement in the quality, but also not just the quality of the nerd stuff, like, but the actual content.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, yeah, those dudes are, I'll you know, I'm not as close with them as you are, but we'll shoot the breeze now and again. I'll get in Galen's ear. And I like to buy, you know, like whenever I buy shit from him, Galen's like, dude, you got to put in the code for this and that. You got to put in this. I was like, dude, I'm not trying to get a discount from you guys. You know, I appreciate what y'all are doing. You know, you know, whatever, you know.
It's at a point now where every time I go through there, they take me to lunch, and I just stop pulling my wallet out. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm getting a free burger today. Or I'm hungry. I'm going to go see Galen. And those guys.
No, they're
good people. Man.
They are good people. And it's nice to come across those types of people in real life, because I've met a lot of douchey some bitches online, you know. It's like, and they turn out to be that way or whatever, you know what I mean? And it's like, you know,
gross.
It is.
I got one year during Adam's Sandoval's Stubborn America tour, he invited influencers out, which I hate that. Like I was telling you last night, like I don't really consider myself an influencer. I'm a custom painter that started a podcast, and because it's a podcast and we make content, you're an influencer, content creator. I don't.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You're roped in.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
You know, but that's not really. I don't know. So anyway, he invited everybody out, and then I had my son that weekend, so I was like, let's go camping. then we get there and it's like, oh, well, all the influencers get to stay in this house. And I'm like,
What the hell?
all right, well, we camped outside the house because I wanted to take my son camping.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say any names. And honestly, everybody there was nice.
Sure.
They were nice people. But to me, it's like if you're content creators and you're going to go back and tell people about this experience, you're so far removed from the experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, and you're kind of staying away from all the people that are like, I don't know, like, what are you talking about then?
Yeah.
You know, even I'll even say, Adam, you know, we talked a little bit off air the last time I did a podcast with him, and over the years doing the camp out up there and things, it's like he struggled to find his purpose in YouTube.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, like, well, do I go with lifestyle at the campground, like refurbishing this place, or do I, you know, going and doing the road trips has always been his bread and butter of like garnering attention. I'm like, I mean,
What do you want to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you feel like doing?
you know, it's like, I don't, you know, not everybody can be like Ryan Cruzy and have the fucking best personality.
Yeah.
It's funny and,
Yeah.
you know, like just turn a camera on and just riff. Like
Yeah.
the dude's just got it, you know,
Yeah.
but, and obviously like certain YouTube videos and certain things people do are going to resonate with different people. Like if I'm making videos, it's probably going to be in the line of customizing a motorcycle and some kind of experience on a motorcycle. Right. I don't mean this in a bad way because you guys are very charitable with what you do, but I don't consider myself a very charitable person. Like I'm not going out of my way to do certain things like that. Not that I don't care.
No, yeah. No.
I just don't feel like I'm in a position to be to do that.
What do you mean? You lost me.
Well, like I don't get jazzed up like, oh, I want to go on this veterans ride or
right.
you know, do like I just don't. I mean, it's nothing against like.
Well,
Yeah.
No,
like
for
we're in the
sure.
same boat. Like,
We
we do Mile Monsters because it aligns with us.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, it's very different than what I think maybe you're thinking. Mile Monsters isn't like like we did this. We did a couple of tours with Gavin.
Yeah.
With him, and he's kind of a rare. In a lot of ways, he's a rare one because most of the kids don't have the ability or the want to ride on a motorcycle, and he did and does. And so we took him. At first, it was a group of 5 people, and that was including me and Chase. So it was Hop, Riot, and Twister and Gavin, and then they're like the 3 of them were going to do this, and then I got invited to come along with kind of by accident.
Yeah.
And then so I was like, well, hey, I'm going to bring my son with me if you don't mind. We'll be out of your way. You don't even know we're there, whatever. And then so then that turned into 5 riders, right? And then some people came along the way or whatever, but it wasn't like a big Veterans Day ride or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't like riding in groups. I mean, like, I think 5 is probably my limit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
don't
And I mean,
care
I've
for
done
more than 5.
more. I've done more for sure.
I
And I
mean, we
will.
went across America in more than 5.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, like to kind of further like what I was talking about is I've been in this scene in Dallas, motorcycle scene and industry for 20 years. I can't tell you how many sham fucking organizations have come along
I'll bet.
and, try to rope people in, try to, like getting on the podcast, dude, the amount of effort some of them go through. And then I hold and then bam, it all fucking unfolds and it was a shit show.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so I just like have a stance where I don't bring charitable people or charitable organizations on the
Sure.
podcast.
That makes sense.
Yeah, well, because usually it's rooted in
sell.
these people making money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I don't want to like. There's some out there that I know of that people that do rad shit. I just don't want to be in that position.
Yeah.
Because then now I'm tied to it. And
Absolutely.
then if it hits up, then it's like, oh, Jace, man, what's up? And I donated $1,000 to that charity.
Yeah.
And the dude was doing, he was buying hookers and blow. Like, what's that about? I'm like, well, like, fuck, he had me full too.
He's very appreciative for your donation.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
and so like, this is such a
okay.
rabbit hole we could go down.
Yeah, it sucks.
So-
because
then we
what
go,
sucks-
we're different.
Last
We're not
point,
those
what I
guys.
was going to say was it just sucks that, it's not your job to be accountable for these people. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
look, and that's how I feel with Mile Monsters. You know what I mean? Like right now, everything makes sense and the purpose is there. And, by this time next year, it might be a shit show. And it might be something completely off the rails.
To give another piece of context here, like the toy run, right? We all every town has one.
Right.
Yeah.
So in Dallas, we have the big Texas toy run where it's like 3 parts of the city come together one spot and everybody's donating toys, right? And you're kind of like, that was like a thing to do in Dallas for the longest, right? So you'd always go on it and you'd see like everybody did it for show. Like it was like they got toys. No fucking kid wants that stuffed animal, dude.
Yeah.
Like the fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Get him a Power Ranger, a goddamn
Yeah.
Thanos glove or some
Yeah,
shit,
yeah,
you know. But
Care Bear from the 80s.
The problem is, like,
What's the eye missing on it? Yeah.
but you would go to this endpoint and it's just a pile of toys in a warehouse kind of thing, and it's like, man, like that. I mean, does it go to kids?
Yeah. This doesn't
And
look
then
like it's special.
I did a like one in the hood with like one of the like minority bike clubs, and man, like we were handing the toys to the kids.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm
Yes.
like, yo, like that felt good.
Yes.
You saw their faces,
Smiling,
you know, and that's
happy.
kind of what I would say about what you guys do with that. It's like you're actually doing something with the kids, not for this
Right.
mythical being that's
Right.
over there with,
Yeah.
with
Exactly
you know what I'm
right.
saying?
We have 5 kids that we know.
And that's
Yeah.
what that's what actually kind of the Goats tour, the initial one, is what drew me in. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like I got invited to go along because I'm the same way, dude. I keep things at arm's distance, especially when I learn about it on the internet. You know,
Yeah.
it's like there's this place, Mile Monsters, you know, what, you know, whatever. And then so everybody always has good intentions at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's just like a lot of things sometimes don't make sense in the long term, in the long run. But anyways, that was one of the big things though for me was Gavin's the Goat tour, the initial one. You know, it was like you're right next to him. You're right next to you get to hear and see. And I was we were both in a very unique position that a lot of people don't get to be a part of. And so when we put that first movie together, we tried to expose that a little bit. You know, it's like, you know, this thing right here is 100% real. You know what I mean? It wasn't staged, and it wasn't, you know, and that added to the complexity for us. You know what I mean? Because it's like we were saying earlier. It's like
I thought it was a pretty brilliant way how y'all did the video where you had almost like a podcast that had a callback to
Yeah.
things going on in it.
Yeah, because we were taking such out of context videos, and we did that again this year.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
tried to hit some interviews along the way, you know, but it's
tough
it's
because
so
like
tough.
those guys don't, you know, like the mission is the kid from the jump. You know what I mean? Well, he's going to have his best life. He's going to have this is for him.
Yeah.
You know, and then if we're able to make a documentary about it, you know, great. And if we can make that really awesome, even better or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the first call to act, the very first thing is making sure that he has the best time that we can give him, you know? And then so on that first run, the Texas run, I got to see that firsthand. And then I got to see how much, you know, like Riot, Hopper, and Twister were not using this kid as a prop or, you know, it's like, hey, look at, you know, like they love him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And they've spent years with him since he got diagnosed. You know what I mean? And then so like what everybody is seeing is a cultivation of years of knowing this kid and being in this kid's life, being in this kid's life and being there whenever he gets the bad news and the good news and all this stuff, you know? And then so it's like whenever we got to do that tour and film it, it was just like, wow, this is not often you get to see something as true and real as this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially when you're talking about the internet.
Yeah.
And so that's what drew me into Mile Monsters, as I was in that, you know, really great position to be a part and see the truth behind it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, things grow, you know, and Mile Monsters has grown a lot in a couple of years. And so Riot has done, you know, we call him the head monster. He's anyways.
Yeah, he started Mile Monsters.
So there's a lot that he was going to do this year personally. Like he's, you know, one of his goals is 100,000 miles in this year, you know. And then on top of that, he's, you know, he did like the Gump Run and the Hoka Hey and all these different things. So he was not able to do a lot of the marketing and stuff like that. So like, luckily though, over the last couple of years, you know, it just keeps getting more and more traction. More and more people want to get involved. And it's like, hey, how can we help? Nobody's getting paid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whenever we do our own fundraising, we're all doing our own individual fundraising for Mile Monsters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like me personally, like this shirt, you know, like I designed this shirt and I sent it over to Riot and I was like, hey dude, what do you think about this? And he's like, yeah, that looks good. So I was like, I sold these shirts and I wrapped it into a giveaway or something. I forget exactly what it was. But you know, like this is all out of my pocket cost. You know what I mean? It's not like we're working with a budget and all this other shit.
And
You know what I mean?
it's normally not a big fund that it goes to too, which I really like. So normally you're not donating to just, oh yeah, I'll give some money to Mile Monsters. You have to pick what part of it.
Right.
You want to get some money to Gavin, you're sending money to Gavin. You want to send
Yeah.
money to Turbo in California, you're sending money to Turbo, you know?
And then and then there's ways that they're, you know, trying to organize and structure things to streamline it. Some of the stuff is confusing. People want to get involved, they don't know how. You know, there's some stuff that, you know, they're all trying to clear up.
The internet presence is kind of tough.
And at the same time, you know, we're all riding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, that's a challenge, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, that was that whole experience was, you know, it was definitely life changing for me. You know, to be a part of something bigger than yourself. You know, and to have such an impact on, you know, something meaningful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's a lot of meaningful charities out there. Some resonate more with other people than others. You know what I mean? And then so being on the GOATS tour, the first one, with my son, who's perfectly healthy, even though he does drive me crazy sometimes, and vice
You mess up
versa.
in a different kind of way.
We got to Tyler, and I had a moment with Gavin's parents. We had like a midway kind of party. You know, they had the news out there and everything. Like it was kind of a big deal. Food and shit at this
Chick-fil-A came and sponsored. Oh no, it was
Cane's. Yeah,
Cane's came out and sponsored the whole thing. Yeah, it's cool.
and so they had a news crew there interviewing Jessica and Manny, Gavin's parents, and you know, I'm trying to get all the B-roll I can and all the stuff I can. So after their interview was done, I kind of had a moment with them, and I was just like, because they got they were getting a little bit of flack for letting their kid go with bikers. You know what I mean? It's like, how could you let your 8-year-old ride on the back of these, you know, bikers? You know, it's like, you know, that's not safe or that's not whatever. And then so, like, her response to that is like, I don't know if he's going to wake up tomorrow and not have his ability to walk. That's how fast it happens. And I want him to live his best life. And
Yeah.
if that means that he's going to ride on the back of a motorcycle and risk all the risks that are involved with that, that's what we're going to do. And that's our decision. It's not yours, you know?
Yeah.
And then so I remember telling her, you know, like, I can only imagine what you're going through as a parent, you know? But as a parent with my son on this ride, you know, I would like to think that I would make the same decision that y'all are making, you know, and that would be to, you know, let him live because they don't, you know, you get Dushan's and, you know, they're making a lot of advancements with technology and everything in the treatment of that, but it's still devastating to these kids, you know.
Most boys with DMD aren't walking past 10 years old. And at the time that first tour, Gavin was 8, you know?
Yeah, he turned 10 on the 18th of August.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then so like we've been, you know, a part of, that's how I got my road name, Iceman, it was in that, the GOATS tour, the first one. I had a cooler and we were carrying his medicine in it. And then like, I was also carrying his,
Cooling vest.
yeah, his cooling vest. Cause it was, we were doing that run in a record breaking heat that year.
Yeah, it was a record-breaking summer.
And then so every day that we were out on the road for, I think it was 8 days, every day that we were on the road, it was over 100 degrees. And so, I'd keep his cooling vest in there. I had some pickles in there and just some stuff for him, you know. And then so it was like the first couple of days, he didn't know who I was. He was just like, I don't know. I don't see anybody over there, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm trying to interact with him or whatever. And I'm also trying to give him his space, you know.
Yeah.
And then so it was like day 3. He's like, hey, Iceman,
Yeah.
I want my cooling vest. I said, you got it, buddy. You got
Iceman.
it. Yeah. And it's
my
just kind of
cooling
stuck. So
That's how nicknames are supposed to come about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Not like you come here, you're going to call me Wolf.
yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you earn that name, Wolf?
Call me delicious.
Yeah.
Calling you delicious? You crazy?
It's a callback right there, Kings of Comedy.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I think we've been doing this too long, huh? It's like 4.
3.5.
It's been a minute.
All right, yeah.
Oh shit.
Holy
Sorry.
shit, it's 6 o'clock.
Yeah, you're a real chatty Cathy.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we could do this again at some point, man. Because like I said, you guys do a lot of stuff that are constantly evolving and changing, and new stories are being made and developed and stuff like that. So, like I said,
buzzer here next time. So.
Yeah, like a little
I need a clock
on
in
the
here.
wall, yeah.
It's like Vegas in here.
Yeah,
I don't want you to know
yeah.
what time
Countdown
it is.
backwards.
Yeah.
We got one of those actually.
Yeah,
for
we
the,
do
for
actually.
the Politic podcast.
We're about to use it though.
But no, I do appreciate it, and I do appreciate you guys being accommodating and making it up here to do this. And
You bet, man. I
like I
appreciate
said, I
it.
wish I'd reached out a lot sooner, but it's kind of a perfect time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Thank
It's
you
all
very much
good.
for the
Yeah.
invite.
Thanks
Yeah,
for the
for
invite.
sure.
Amazing.
All right, guys. Thank you.